This meeting is being live streamed. Are you on our YouTube? Try to go, I guess, on the phone.
Uh,
Mm, we should be live on there. I'm testing everything for the first time, people. So if we're not actively talking, yeah, I like a little thumbnail.
I see it
Oh, we're
says live.
Gucci. Yeah, yeah, we're Gucci. We live, baby.
We're
All right,
live, y'all.
live,
Welcome
y'all.
to the
Got my
party.
headphones on. I got my headphones on. We getting crazy out here in these streets. Am I lit? Am I lit?
Oh, you're always lit, George. You're
Thank
always lit.
you. Thank you. I just realized my audio ain't coming from where it's. I just realized why. Because it's not even plugged in. We're running a rinky dink operation today, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Where are we? Where are we? Headphone. Yes. Something, mister. Let me hear you.
What's going on?
Oh,
We are here,
okay.
baby. We are here. No, that'd have been that's the worst thing to do.
All right, all right, guys. This is one of the first time we've ever live streamed on YouTube for one of our podcast episodes. It might be something we look forward to doing in the future, depending on whether or not you guys dig it. But yeah, we're going to start recording the podcast in a moment. And yeah, I think I shared it to everyone. I've sent it around. Uh, what's this? Uh, tell your friends and family. Um, Let me see, youtube.com/. I really don't know what happened with Zoom. We've always been able to do it, but when I looked up the issue, multiple people are having it, and they're all very frustrated because seemingly there's been no fix. I want to say since maybe as late as March.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and
That's annoying.
some people are losing money out on it, because if this is your business and you're doing this live
Heck
stuff,
yeah.
whatever. We might be still doing it on Facebook, but I think we might try to use OBS, which is what I use for Twitch, so I can put things on the screen and you know, pictures and stuff. That might be something we dabble in, but it all depends on how good we do here. I think I am shared to the max where I can be. I'm just gonna put the link straight up into on my feed. Uh, do you want to monitor the? Can you see if there's people there?
Uh, this is all new to me too.
Oh, okay. X-Men 97. All right. I think
It's
that's I think that's enough. Right? That's enough.
that's enough. That's enough.
That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. All right. Conchu. Now they know that who I pray to for all this. Conchu. Make sure everything goes off without a hitch. And we are ready to talk X-Men 97 in three, two, one. Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don. And if you're listening to this, you could only be here for one reason. That's a brand new episode of the Major Issues Podcast, brought to you each and every week by comicbookclick.com. And as always, I am never alone. Sir, if you could please introduce yourself.
It is I, Alex, aka the Cog, with you live to talk about probably the most live series we've had to really sink our teeth into quite some time.
Oh, I'm super excited to talk today's topic, and I need your knowledge for some of this stuff because I know it's one thing to have, let's say, like a historian's knowledge, right? Where you have dived deep into like the text and you understand the lore and all that's come from. But you're somebody who's actually experienced this as this went on, especially things like this series. You saw it tackle. We're talking X-Men '97, people. You saw it tackle
Are we?
some seminal X-Men stories. Whether or not you thought they did them good or not, we'll get into all that in a bit. And now with its return, is it a return to form or is it just a more nostalgia bait? Because I think that's what a lot of people were wondering, whether or not it was going to be that. But before we get into any of that, I guess I'll ask that up front. What's your relationship with the original OG X-Men, the animated series?
Oh, I was a watcher from day one. I mean, the idea of getting this series when at that point in time, the idea of a movie was so far-fetched. And I grew up watching Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends and any kind of affiliated comic book cartoons, and occasionally an X-Man would appear on it, and it'd be like, "Oh, look, we got Wolverine, we got Cyclops, we got Professor X," and it was so wonky. It was usually so cheesy that it never went farther than that. So
Right.
you had to just live off of, yeah, I saw Wolverine in that one episode of Spider-Man, or I seen Cyclops and Magneto, cool, cool, cool. And that's all you got. Then we were blessed with X-Men Pride of the X-Men, if you remember that.
Right. Yeah,
That
that was
that
the
that was, that was a
pilot.
pilot. It was just a pilot, and I don't know how. I still because you can watch that now, and yeah, it's not perfect, but it was damn good for that time. The animation was great, the voice acting was great. Yeah, some of the characterizations were a little off, and everything kind of happened really fast, but it was a pilot. You want to try to hook people in 30 minutes or so. So they had to just kind of throw everything at the screen at one time. And I remember watching that thing over and over and over again. But that show ended up being the foundation for this original X-Men show.
Right.
So I love that show. I watched it week to week. I remember when they put it on prime time at one point. I remember
Right.
when they did the Phoenix Saga, when they did the Dark Phoenix Saga. The show was just great. I mean, I watched it from beginning all the way into the end, which a lot of people go, "Oh man, that last season was so
That's
bad. The
yeah.
animation was so bad." I didn't care. This is what you had. So it's either you watch this or you have nothing. You have the comics, which was more than enough. But if what else are you gonna watch? What else are you gonna watch? Because I'm sorry, Spider-Man fans, but that '90s Spider-Man show
Watch your
was
mouth. You watch just because we had a light skinned blade don't mean you gotta get all of just because Morbius didn't bite anybody, he used to suck
Oh,
plasma
I got to
from his
suck your plasma
palms.
from my finger with my palms. Oh my
Just be,
God.
that like um I
So
think
bad.
something that people forget oftentimes, and I know this when I was growing up in the '90s, X-Men had Marvel on its back when it came to pop culture, especially
Hmm.
in the '90s. X-Men and Spider-Man, they kind of, you know, ruled the day for the entire brand. Um, to the point that I mean, I was so young at the time that I didn't know anything about the Avengers. Those were in my A-list uh, super team. It was these guys. I could name these guys off the back of my hand. If you asked me to name 10 Avengers in 1997, I'd be like, Uma Thurman. I think she was in the Avengers.
Oh man, that's whoo.
Deep cut.
Talking about a whole different
Yeah,
movie, ladies and gentlemen.
right, right.
No, you're absolutely right. Think about that. It's so crazy to see where the Avengers are right now and
Yeah,
know that at one point they couldn't be sold.
right.
When Marvel was going bankrupt, the idea that everybody, oh, we'll snatch up the X-Men, Sony, oh, we'll snatch up Spider-Man, Fox, we'll take this and this and this. What about Captain America and Iron Man and Thor? You can keep those characters. They
Yeah.
suck. No, they'll never be a prestigious money making team. Look at them
I don't
now.
know. I don't know what's more shocking, the idea that the Avengers eclipsed the X-Men the way that they did, or that Fox had everything they needed to just do like a badass X-Men universe and just completely fumbled the ball on several different occasions. Um, I, grew up obviously an X-Men fan. I had watched the shows. I go in and I watch the movies, and I remember thinking like, oh, they're really trying hard to kind of get away from like the comic booky nature of this team, and I just completely unplugged that Last Stand because I had remembered so deeply how they covered the Dark Phoenix saga in the show. And then just to, refresh myself, I would go on to read the Dark Phoenix, the Phoenix saga. Like you have to read the Phoenix saga and then the Dark Phoenix saga. Like you have to read from the, from her getting the cosmic entity, through her being normal, the little tells that something's not going right, the mind break with Mastermind, and then, the Dark Phoenix erupting and all that kind of stuff. What a slow burn. What a terrific story. And just it's everything you would think about in a movie. Like you would think this is everything you would think about as a culmination. This would have been the end game. Like that it should have felt like end game. Like the one person that the I mean, I hate to say the mother of the team, but you get what I'm saying? Like the most nurturing, one of the most nurturing members of the team becoming this ethereal cosmic goddess and just laying waste, kind of she just wears like a trench coat and gets stabbed at the end. Like so I'm sitting there. So we have this series that's tackling some of these great stuff. Killer theme song, made by the same guy who did the Power Rangers theme song, which is pretty interesting. I guess he just like those guitar
Oh,
riffs. He's just looking on them guitar riffs.
yeah. Huh.
And yeah, like those are things that stick out in my mind. The video games. When I think of the X-Men, this is the visuals, like the suits and the team in general. Were you at all hesitant when they were talking about bringing this up? Was this an instant like, oh yeah, I gotta tune into that?
It was a double-edged because one, unfortunately, on a whole, Marvel's track record of late has not been that great. The turmoil that was coming up quickly with this production, how many things were changing, the
Hmm.
fact that unfortunately some voice actors couldn't come back because unfortunately some of them passed away.
Yeah,
And then the idea of like, where are they going to go with some of these stories now? Are they going to really sink their teeth into them? Or are they going to cartoon it up like they really did in that last season?
right.
What's going to happen? How much respect are they going to pay to to the actual entirety of the show? Even though they were calling it X-Men 97, is it going to be like a true continuation of that series? Where they're going to try to just wipe away certain things or just try to make it seem like, yeah, we didn't like that, so we're just going to change it. So I was a
Yeah,
little hesitant, but I knew I was going to watch it. But I didn't. I don't think anyone would have predicted this quality, this um this addictiveness that came with this show. Like people,
yeah.
people watching this week to week. The reviews are what I think they're back to like 100% on Rotten
It went
Tomatoes right
down and
now.
then went back up
Back
somehow.
up.
Yeah. It.
That there I know genuine true doubters that even as the show was going on and everyone's telling them watch the show, who were just like, nah, I'm not, no, they changed this and morph is
Oh,
non-binary, so it's
oh,
dumb and blah.
we'll get
I
to
I'm
that.
not I'm not gonna give it any time. And then the show finishes and I went back and watched it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I will say that I was initially skeptic, mostly because of everything that's been out lately, right? Like, we brought, I mean, that's a bad example because that was actually good. I was gonna say we brought Top Gun back. We brought Indiana Jones back, and it wasn't necessarily great. I remember the distance between Rush Hour 2 and 3 and that not being too great. I've seen people try to go into the well of nostalgia, and if they don't get the thing that they're adapting, the thing that they're bringing back, it does end up feeling like a parody, like a cosplay of a show, like almost
Mhm.
pretending to be like that. And this show, 97, could have done well um, being status quo. Magneto could have been the big bad. They
Yeah.
could have yada yada and Xavier's back and we're just gonna go and do here's the blob. I'm not saying that none of that stuff is fun, but man, just the weight that every one of these episodes is given, the clear metaphor that the X-Men have always stand for is even like hammered home in every episode here when you talk about people who are disenfranchised. I initially, like every other series we've ever covered here on the Major Issues podcast, we were going to do this in one go. I am so happy we did it. I'm so happy we did it. I was able to go back and watch this first half of the series with like eyes because I'm taking notes and stuff. And the attention to detail for everything from the animation, the sound design, the lines, the dialogue. I'm right. Like just things that are like said and the voice acting. I know this is gonna sound crazy, right? Because we live in a world where Chris Pratt is everything, but but the voice acting in this is tremendous. The inflections, and more so, I guess, like the pain. You very rarely
Mhm.
hear pain in the voice of an animated cartoon character,
Right.
especially one, designed after the famous, sort of Saturday morning cartoon kind of genre of cartoons. But there's so many heartbreaking moments in this that are, uh, sent up to 100 because of the stellar voice acting in this. I was not prepared, and it almost forces like this is the rising tide kind of situation. Like I heard people already talking like, oh, we should do Spider Man. I'm like, "Well, relax, relax. We just got this, and this was well. Not saying I wouldn't welcome it, but I'm just saying like I'm not here trying to get greedy. I've seen Marvel get greedy before.
I was about to say that. I was about to say that. Like, don't pace yourselves.
Yes, get greedy before because they see something that works and they go with it, and I can't blame them for that. That's how a business is run. But with this, there was so much attention to detail. I would be afraid to put this on a conveyor belt and now just mass produce it. Um, they had something to say with this series, and
Yeah.
I've always said, if you're gonna make art, say something. And we live in, I don't think it's controversial to say, very divisive times at the moment.
We do?
Little bit,
Nah.
little bit. And they challenge and they talk to that kind of conflict several times in this series, almost turning the mirror to society, turning the mirror to yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
big time.
do you feel like certain people are in vogue? And you're just hanging out with your muty friend. Like, certain things is put there on Front Street about where's your level of tolerance? How do you feel about other? And do you the tolerance is extinction is basically the same thing as you will not replace us, right? Like
Yeah.
they had riots over stuff like that. So obviously you can tell I'm ready to get into all of this stuff. Um,
You seem a little excited, Don. You seem a
just a
little
tad,
excited.
just a tad bit high off life, but um, I guess we can go ahead and say that you were a fan of the series.
Oh, big time. Big time. I mean, even I got to rewatch it a few times already.
Hmm.
And it's just happily been almost playing in the background now. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's funny how the more I watch, the more I'm like, you catch extra details. Though, like you said, those lines that just keep hitting, no matter how. Like pretty much, Magneto was the Doctor Doom of the series. Not to say that he hasn't always been, but maybe it's just
Dude.
maybe it's just me being older or and wiser, or the voice acting just being that much better along with the writing. But it felt
Yeah.
like every line that Magneto dropped was just like, oof, like like it just hit and you just felt it. And then even I don't want to say lesser lines, but just the genuineness of the dialogue between characters. Like when Jean is talking to Scott and Scott talking to Madeline, and the three of them are
Yeah.
getting into it, the Rogue and Gambit's interactions, even that one conversation that Beast has with Trish Tilby, it just was like I had to rewatch it to like catch those
Yeah.
nuances in the dialogue because it wasn't like you said, it wasn't like an animated conversation. You know how you have to rely on just the volume and the tone. You have to pay attention to the animation to
Yeah.
see how like, oh, I see why Beast got mad in this conversation. I see what he caught. And it was so this series was so beautifully done. You could see that the people behind it loved the source material. They loved the characters. They put such time and effort into the series that it's not shocking. Like I think we just talked about it before. When you love doing something, you put it on the page and you put it in your art, and here it is. This is the product of people who love the X-Men and who understand that these aren't just these colorful characters you got behind me. These are damn near living people. And that's the
Yeah.
way they treat them. That's the way they're being treated. And that's why we have this remarkable series.
Yeah, let's talk about some of those people that created this. X-Men 97 is an American television series created by Bo DeMaio for the streaming service Disney Plus, based on the Team X-Men, but it's also a revival of X-Men the Animated Series, which ran for 5 years between 1992 and 1997, continuing the story of the X-Men who are now facing new challenges because they lost their leader, Xavier. 97 is produced by Marvel Studios via its Marvel Animation label, with DeMaio as head writer for the first two seasons and Jake Castorina as supervising director. Ray Chase, Jennifer Hale, Allison Seeley Smith, Cal Dodd, J.P. Carliak, Lenore Zahn, George Busa, AJ Lo Cascio, Holly Chow, Isaac Robinson Smith, Matthew Watterson, Ross Marquand, and Adrian Hugh star as the members of the X-Men. You were just talking about, Seeley Smith, Dodd, Zahn, Busa, and Hugh reprised their roles from the original series, as well as Christopher Britton. The original series stars Catherine Disher, Chris Potter, Allison Court, Lawrence Bain, and Robin Rubin return to voice new characters. So the whole, this all went well, but the strangest thing about this is that DeMaio was fired as head writer in March of 2024 after completing work on the first two seasons. Um, that's not great, you know?
No, and that was one of the things that made me worry. Like, whoa, like if when the show is about to come out, you fire the writer.
Yeah,
That's like, they did not like what he made. That's what you initially would think. But apparently, I
yeah.
think this guy had a lot of other things that weren't to
The
the
rumor I had,
only.
or the rumor I heard was OnlyFans.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's the yeah, that's what I heard, and whether or not that's true, whether or not it would have to be something ridiculous like that, because come on, man, like this is quality control at its finest. He knows what he wants. One of the things I'll say about this series, like, although it's a cartoon, there's no wasted moments in this. Like
none.
all the way through, it's packed to the brim with greatness. I was surprised at how much notes I took, given that these episodes are like 30 minutes, 35 minutes, 40
Hmm.
sometimes. But I'm like, it's jam packed. Even in the
Yeah.
silent moments, it's absolutely jam packed. Um, this series premiered on March 20th with its first two episodes. The rest of the 10 episodes, released weekly until May 15th. The second season's already in production, and the third one is already in development. So, they'll be hammering out these very quickly. But yeah, let's get into full spoilers of the first five episodes of X-Men 97. I
You
think
have
most
been
of,
warned.
I think most importantly, oh yeah, spoilers. The biggest thing that's happened prior to this series is Xavier is thought to be dead by the world after being shot by Henry Gyrick. But we know, because the X-Men sent him to space, because Leandra, his space boo,
That's right.
it's supposed to have some like tech or whatever that's supposed to help him out. We're only doing the first five episodes today because it's going to be a bit of a deep dive, but I cannot wait. So let's get into the first one, To Me, My X-Men.
Mm.
So our series starts off with the trademark, albeit remixed theme and opening video. This show marks both the first Marvel Studios project with the Marvel Animation banner and Marvel Studios' first X-Men project. What do you think about that sort of new opener that Marvel Animation?
Was
Uh,
it? I thought they didn't use this banner for What If season 2.
no.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay. No,
Mm-mm.
I mean, I loved the beat they put over it and how that beat would like go perfectly into the X-Men theme song,
Yeah.
to the point where like I don't skip anything with this show. Anything.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
skip that because Disney Plus gives you the option to skip that, but still see the intro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't skip any of that. I'm like, I want to
Nah.
hear it all.
Previously
And
on X-Men.
exactly, exactly. I want to hear everything. Like to me, and I've seen the memes of like, hey man, if you skip the intro to X-Men, like we can't be friends. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
And because it just hits every time. So now when I hear that Marvel animation, it like tunes up my ear. The theme song's
Bink.
coming. But even that music in that Marvel animation banner, it's really cool. And it gets, and I'm now thinking about it, gets me excited for what else they're going to put underneath it. Because I guess What If season 3 is going to be underneath it, definitely. They're
Yeah.
going to continue with the X-Men. And what other animation projects
They were
are you aware of?
supposedly they were going to do Marvel Zombies. It was supposed
Right,
to be
its own thing. Right.
its own thing under there. It just opens up the floodgates, and this is also the MCU's first X-Men project,
Yeah.
outright. So
Because
it's
now they
looking
got three
good.
banners. They got what? They got Marvel Studios, they got Marvel Animation, and they also have Marvel.
I I
What's
I
the third
agree, but I
one?
can't remember what. Oh, Spotlight.
Spotlight, yes, which I believe they put Echo underneath that. That was like Echo was like the first one
I know
underneath
f-
that.
I know for sure. No, the first was Werewolf by Night.
Werewolf by Night, even better. There you
Yeah,
go.
Werewolf by Night was the
But
first one.
and I think they've
So
said that Daredevil is going to be underneath that.
it makes sense. It makes
Yeah.
sense for them. So yeah, and the thing is, man, I watched this first episode, and it was one of those things where I not physically but mentally, my arms were crossed a little bit. I waited a couple weeks before I first saw it because, you
Did
know,
you?
yeah, I waited. Want to say two? Maybe got on episode
Wow.
three. Yeah, because I didn't want to rush to be disappointed or rush to be, like I didn't know what I was running into. So I was like, and we were dealing with a lot of stuff, here behind the scenes. But um once that theme song hit, I was shocked at how fast my mind snapped back to the early 90s of me just sitting, because I'm watching the same visuals. My
Right.
brain is hearing the same stuff.
Yeah.
I'm watching the same visuals. Obviously, it cleared up. Obviously, more high definition and stuff like that. But man, I'm just completely sent back. I have a bowl of cereal in my
I was
in my
about to
lap,
say, yo, you suddenly eating
Yeah,
cereal in your
yeah.
pajamas and you just waking up on a Saturday morning,
And
you know?
it was like those
Yeah, mom, I want pancakes.
it was like those bastards. They did it. They did it. I'm back. I'm back. You got me already. I haven't even started
Right.
watching already. And I'm already
Mhm.
in because you've already nailed this part of it. So after that awesomeness, we're treated to a world without Charles Xavier in it, as the founder of the X-Men was thought to be killed by Henry Gyrick exactly 1 year ago. Since his death, sympathy towards mutants has been rising, and the X-Men have been sanctioned by the UN, causing extremists like the Friends of Humanity to up their anti-mutant arsenal and hateful rhetoric. We see them doing just that when Robert DaCosta, the newest audience surrogate in the X-Men series, is captured and interrogated by this group, even though he is, as DaCosta puts it, one of the good ones. Yeesh. I was like, ah.
Oh, already, like immediately, already walking on that glass, challenging the way you perceive things, challenging the way people perceive themselves. Like this was like, wow, like they just threw you right back into it and just got your mind already going. There was no fluff. There was no, hey guys, we're just the X-Men again, and we're just gonna be like high fiving. No, man, they off the just the way this started was showing you this is no joke. This is gonna hit you in so many different ways because I've watched the first 5 or 6 episodes now already
Hmm.
4 or 5 times. 4 or 5
Really?
times. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's really,
But
really
and then
good.
yeah, like even that, like that whole thing, and he's basically hating on mutants with the mutant haters, and they're still like, well, you're still a mutant. You know?
Yeah.
They're still
They
like,
don't
it
care.
doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you
The
hate the
only
same
good
people.
mutant's a dead mutant.
100% in their eyes.
That's it.
And yeah, it's the Friends of Humanity, man. These guys, they're matching vests or whatever, and,
Yeah.
and begin these Sentinel guns, and you're already like, come on. But I love how are imitating life. The more that humanity is embracing the mutants, the more hardline those who already were
Right.
become because they've just digging their heels. And we've
Yep.
seen that, right?
Yeah.
We've seen that with various different disenfranchised groups. So
Art
yeah,
art imitates life, right?
yeah, I absolutely love that. Um, so luckily for Roberto, the real ones, the real good ones, the X-Men, Cyclops, Storm, Jubilee, and Bishop arrive in time to save him, but not before discovering that the FOH are using Sentinel parts to create anti-mutant weapons. Um, they basically save him, but I just want to talk about because they knew exactly what they were doing. They gave Cyclops like a G ass moment, G ass moments, because this is when he's like actively adjusting his visor, shooting little shots, big shots,
Hmm.
shooting shots at the ground so it could push him back, so he could dodge other attacks. I've never seen him do that in the animated
Nope.
series. He
Nope.
was just styling, and there's something amazing but chilling if you follow the character and know where he goes about Cyclops coming in and being, somebody's like, are you one of the bad guys or one of the good guys? He's like, I'm Cyclops, definitely the good guy. Like, first of all, I totally dig that because he is the Boy Scout especially in this moment. But realizing that that's not always the case for that character,
Hmm.
kind of broke my heart a little bit there. But um, let me pull it up. That voice actor for Cyclops is killing it,
He's awesome because he's not the original voice
murdering
actor.
it.
The original voice
No,
actor passed away. This guy,
no,
I had to like listen so carefully to be like, oh, this isn't the original voice actor because
yeah,
it initially didn't hit. It was just like, oh, I thought they said that dude died, and then
right.
to hear this guy, I'm like, okay, you gotta like, I had to really hear like, unlike Magneto, the first time I heard Magneto speak, I was like,
Who that?
that's
Who
not the
that?
original voice actor, but he still killed it too. We'll get to him. But just in general, the way the show started, even in the introduction, because as much as the intro is very much an homage or an exact copy of the original intro, it's still different, and it hits it the show off the just the intro tells you how this show is going to be different. The first two people in the lineup are Cyclops and Jean Grey. Jean was like the second to last in the original intro. So the
Yeah,
fact that this intro is saying, look, you got Cyclops and Jean Grey, they're they're the center of the show. You know,
right.
everybody loves our adamantium wielding mutant. My man took a back seat in this series.
And but still used effectively. Like I got no smoke for that. Like that, like I was like, yep,
I'm not mad about it. I'm
slice
not
and
mad
dice
about
them.
it.
We slice and dice them when we need them, but when we don't, have them grumble in the
That's
corner
it.
while
That
everybody else is doing what they gotta do.
exactly. It's to show I because you know what's crazy is Wolverine. A lot of people have complained about this, and
Mhm.
one guys we've had plenty of Wolverine in our lives. We've had plenty. I love him. Look, I'm right. He's right on my chest. He's right on my chest.
I
I
got
love
Scott.
Wolverine. You got Scott. You know I got him right here. He's right there. He's right there with me.
Yep,
Uh, so we got plenty of Wolverine, and if you read the comics, Chris Claremont, man, I mean, talk about hey, you as Bo DeMayo, you the man, but you know all of this is Chris Claremont. This is Chris
he sat
Claremont.
at the
Everything
altar. He sat at the altar.
that's it.
Clarify, yeah.
That's it. This is all him. This is all him.
Studied the ancient texts.
Exactly, exactly. So this is all from his stories, and in his stories, the center of the story are Scott and Jean. It's not the
Yeah,
Wolverine story. It's not. Wolverine is like you just said. When things need to get gritty, we'll pull Wolverine out, right? Like in the Dark Phoenix saga, right? When that
yeah,
first time that Wolverine gets to get featured, where he gets thrown into the sewers, and then they're like, "Oh, it's Wolverine by himself." We feel bad for the bad guys because
yeah,
that's where Wolverine got featured. That was like 20, 30 issues into or more of the Claremont run. Up
yeah,
until that, Wolverine was just kind of a background character. He said some cool lines. Like you said, he's the grumbly guy in the corner. I'm going to smoke my cigars. I'm going to go get drunk. Let me know when we have to
yeah,
kill somebody. It was the Cyclops Jean Grey story. It wasn't the Wolverine story. So now with the fact that, like you said, like I said in the intro, they're showing, look, right off the bat, you got Scott and Jean. And then who's the first person? I mean, well, Storm is actually the first person that comes in through the sky, and then we see
yeah,
Cyclops, which immediately tells you, look, this is going to be they're going to be the forefronts. You have Storm. Storm takes up a lot of time in this. She
yeah.
deserved that time to be taken up,
Damn
and
right.
Scott now going to be shown that he's still the Boy Scout, but he is the heart of the X-Men. He is the center of the X-Men. He was the first student. He's the
Yeah,
first student. He's the one that knows no matter what happens, I'm the X-Men. I am the X-Men.
yeah,
So just showing that, and then showing how he could be a Boy Scout, but he could still be a badass. The way he, like you said, he's changing directions. The way he's moving around with his optic blast, killing not killing, but taking out the bad guys the way he has to, and
yeah.
still maintaining his integrity and just still being that corny Boy Scout. You gotta love him. You gotta love him for it. I loved the way this kicked off.
This is also the scene where they take off his visor. He's like, "Oh no, not my visor!" And then he
Not my
opens his
visor, right,
eyes and
right.
just blasts everybody.
Mhm.
It's absolutely great.
Somebody
Um,
call an ambulance, but not for me.
we need more other X-Men themed merch, like you were just talking about. Wolverine takes up a lot of that stuff. Let's get some. Let's get some Magneto stuff. Let's get some Swagneto swag out here. You understand? I need that. I need that sleeveless, long gloved. We'll get into it. But you were just talking about, the centerpieces of this, and I was talking about how much I was fighting nostalgia. But again, as soon as that FOH member starts to talk and his breath can be seen because the temperature has dropped, and you hear Storm's voice booming again, right back to the 90s. That voice, that dialect, the way that
Yeah,
she delivers, she's always delivered it with gravitas. She's always delivered it
always.
like a goddess, like a queen
Yep.
from the very beginning. And it's that characterization that's colored my view of Storm for years. So whenever she was in like literally no movie's done her right. No movie's
None.
gotten her right. And I'm watching this stuff and she is both boisterous and confident. She's kind, like she's like, "Yeah, you guys can leave, like leave before it gets kind of crazier." So all that stuff, amazing, amazing. I can't gush enough. But when Cyclops comes back to the mansion, he scolds Gambit for not joining the rescue mission and seems to be under pressure as he takes Xavier's place as the true leader of the team. A pregnant Jean comforts him, but they before they decide to talk to Robbie and see what's up. And this is exactly what you were talking about. Not only is he the first student, but now the entirety of the dream in his mind is on his back. Xavier's gone, and everyone's looking to him, and he doesn't want to make the wrong choice. And that is so polarized, not polarizing, paralyzing for someone who needs to make decisions because
Right.
all of his decisions will quite frankly be life or death. If he kicks out Robbie and then Robbie gets snatched up by Thanos and killed, that was Cyclops who did that. It'll all get traced back to him. The entirety of this team's public relations revolves around, Cyclops and what this team is going to end up doing. So amazing stuff there. I kind of like him giving Gambit shit, and I kind of like Gambit not caring.
Yep. Yep.
Also, he's got to be the most French Canadian, not French Canadian, most Cajun man in the
Cajun.
world. If they're like making beignets for breakfast or whatever, like I'm like, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing out here? Um, and we got a peek of Rogue, bro. Those Southern isms killing me, bro,
I
killing
agree.
me,
Like
killing me.
Lenore, and that was another thing. Even though this was the original voice actor, Miss Lenore Zan, I love the fact that she was able to come back, but you could hear the difference in her voice. Like her
Yeah,
and
Cal
Cathal
Dodd,
Dodd, Cal
Cal
Dodd,
Dodd.
who came
Yeah,
back for Wolverine. You can hear the age in their voice. It's so great that they came back. I would not have wanted someone else to come back. I love the fact that they came back, but you can hear the
yeah.
age in their voice. But I like in the original show, I felt like Rogue would only say an occasional ism, a southern isms, like here and there, like maybe once an episode. I felt like the
Yeah.
first three episodes, they were just like, you're just gonna be
Every
laying
line.
every line is just gonna be
Every
like,
line. It's like,
oh,
oh, this
that's like the crawfish in the back alley or something
there's a
like
lot of
everything.
apparently there's a lot of cat themed ones. Like look what the
Yes,
cat dragged in. And well, you gotta put that cat back in the bag. And that cat's
so
got
many,
claws. And I'm like, oh my God, do you own a
so
cat, Rogue?
many.
Do you want to talk about this? What's going on here? Once I got past that, again, I'm still completely super into all this. And yeah, I like that like Jean tries to comfort Scott. She knows he got a lot of stress going on with him. Robbie wakes up to Opera and meets Hank McCoy, aka Beast. The team comes in and asks him about the Sentinel tech, but he doesn't know anything. Jubilee puts him in the danger room to see if he has a handle on his powers, and Wolverine shows up because he loves a good hazing. Cyclops and Jean speak to UN Rep Valerie Cooper about the possibility that Bolivar Trask has been making the weapons found in the FOH headquarters, but she says he's been missing. She tells Cyclops to trust that the UN will be looking into this. Later, Jean confesses to Cyclops that she's been thinking more and more about life after the X-Men, something that Scott has never given any thought to and seems surprised by. This is what you were talking about. When you've enlisted your entire life to be a soldier, the idea of, well, what happens in peacetime? When I feel like Cyclops never had an exit strategy for this, which is interesting, right? Like he was gonna fight the good fight to the end as a father, a husband, headmaster, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool that they breached this. I mean, obviously it goes places, but the fact that Cyclops has never thought of life after the X-Men and the fact that that's exactly why Jean is fighting kind of shows two sides of the same coin, right? Like
Right.
Jean's like, I'm fighting so we don't have to fight forever. There's never the idea that she's looking at her husband and there's no thought in his mind that the fighting would stop. It's a bit of an interesting dichotomy there.
Right. Like
She's
it's like,
more
yo,
hopeful than he is.
I'm X-Men for life, and you're looking at like this is just a portion of your life. Like, no,
Yeah.
this is my entire life. But you want to have a family, you want to get out of here. No, no, that's a little soldier in there. That's the
could,
future.
could you imagine telling her that though? She'd be like, what are you talking
No.
about? But you're totally right. You're totally right. That little soldier. I don't know, that made me laugh so much. Um, so the team gets into a game of basketball, and Wolverine and Jubilee get into an argument because she says he scared Roberto off, and no one knows where he is. Realizing he's a sitting duck for the FOH, Scott rallies the team, but Wolverine gives him crap for thinking he could replace Xavier. Wolverine needs to relax a little bit. He says something like, "Yeah, what Henry Gyrich did was bad, but you know what's worse? Like you thinking that you're the
You.
professor." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's worse than Professor X getting murked."
Yeah.
No, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but them two do not get along. I just love
Nope.
that Scott doesn't back down in this series. I love that he has a backbone in this series. And it's like,
Right.
you mad? All right, gonna still get on the X jet and still take your
That's
ass
right.
to do
Mhm.
what I said to do. 'Cause that's
Get
what's gonna
your
happen.
tiny ass, put your flannel shirt on, and get your ass on the plane and go find the kid. All right. I don't want to hear your
He
mouth.
he never says I'm not doing it.
Right.
He knows what's up.
Hmm.
He knows where his bread gets buttered. So oh, where'd I go? Gambit, Rogue, Logan, Morph, and Jubilee venture to a nightclub to find DaCosta. Cyclops, Bishop, and Storm visit the imprisoned Henry Gyrich, and Jean from the mansion uses Cerebro to probe his mind as to the whereabouts of Trask. The plan works, but unfortunately, it comes with a doomsday premonition that shakes Jean. Shakes Jean to her core. It's about that premonition is bonkers as a kid show, like just like all the stuff they show, just like haunting imagery and stuff. But bro, that Bolivar Trask dialogue, about you guys are in vogue, you guys are a fad, you guys are just people that people like only hang around with to say that they do hang around with mutants. And then when he drops the line that's synonymous now with this first season, tolerance is extinction. This idea that if we seemingly just allow you to be next to us, you threaten our existence.
Right.
And thus
Right.
we cannot even get to the point of tolerance,
Yeah. And then
because that
what
will
I
just
love too
start the
is
domino fall.
even his later line where he basically foreshadows how the season ends, where it's like, well, how are you gonna feel when it's your turn? When you see, I forget exactly how he says it, but
Evolution or whatever, yeah.
you don't understand what it's like to know that you're like an evolutionary
You've been like
footnotes.
leaped over or whatever. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and well, with where the season goes, how many times at the end were they saying stuff along the lines of, "Yo, we're staring at the future. We're staring at the future." Like already looks seeing now their own extinction occurring.
And that's so much in like I'm quite surprised at how much they've pulled from like the recent like House and Powers of X from the Krakoa stuff, right? Because you go into like the Nimrod and all that stuff that goes on in the future there, which I believe is also tied into other previous stories.
Nimrod was around way before Krakoa.
Oh, with that design, there's no way, he's brand new. He kind of looks like a pregnancy test or something.
Hey man, I mean for some men, there's nothing more horrific.
Oh yeah, see, you see,
Oh my god, it's
the
the end
doom
of
has
my
come.
world.
Doom
World's
has come.
collapsing. Doom.
Uh, so Jean tells the team that Trask is hiding at a junkyard in the Sahara, so the team, minus Gray, Jubilee, and Roberto, take the Blackbird to stop Trask once and for all. En route, the aircraft is suddenly shot out of the sky as a sentinel appears and tries to take our team out. After they land safely thanks to Rogue and badass thinking by Cyclops, Scott rallies the troops by saying the magic words, "To me, my X-Men." Just giving us some time to sit and gush about this landing here. What'd you
I
think?
mean, everything about it was phenomenal. Just the fact that these guys, I love how there was never panic. You know, they're
Yeah.
flying there. They're already, everybody's kind of on edge, like, okay, what are we going to encounter? What's going on? When it started happening, I thought it was a danger room simulation. I thought it
Okay.
was them, like, okay, we're going to prepare for the worst. That way we know what to expect when we get there. No, they were already ready.
Yeah, they went right
The
to it.
X-Jet just gets ripped into it. Cyclops just kind of like, yo, you grab them. And the whole time is like, yo, who's grabbing Cyclops? Cyclops
Right.
can't fly. What is
Right.
going on? And Morph. It's the cameos are now popping off. Woo, he turns into Archangel. The first time I watched it, I guess I like kind of was like paying attention to my son, or my son was asking me questions about the X-Men, and so I turned my head, and then suddenly I see Archangel, and I'm like, oh, Archangel saving the day. What's going on? What's good? Nah, it's Morph. It's Morph doing his thing.
That
And so,
happens to me
and
with the
then,
Hulk. I was like, what the hell? I was like, oh,
and
okay.
and this is again from the beginning of this episode, from the intro, to show you that this is the Cyclops show. What I love here is this is the true embodiment of a leader. He waits to know that his team is safe before he
Hmm.
starts to take care of himself. That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. He looks around. Okay, Jean's good. Wolverine's good. Rogue's good. Rogue's got Storm's doing her thing. Blah, 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 blah. We're all good. Okay, good job, team.
Yeah.
Then this dude unleashes like the super optic blast from the Children of the Atom Marvel's Capcom games,
Yeah.
and just turns the sand it's a glass. That's what only could happen from that level of concussion. If it also was the show's way of acknowledging the fact that
It's
it
not
took a lot
heat.
of it's not heat. But I mean, I just what I wanted to feel
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anyway.
No, no, totally, totally, totally.
And the show's paying homage to anime, right? To see that level of power, that the fact, and then what I love is, because I've seen this episode already numerous times, that whole imagery
Yeah,
looks like an atomic bomb.
totally. Yeah.
What is one of the things the X-Men are called?
Children of the Atom.
The Children of the Atom, right? So and here you have this one mutant who's not an Omega class mutant. He's a
No.
dude who has optic blasts, but he's showing, look what I can do. Look what I'm doing to the ground. I'm saving myself with my optic blast.
Yeah.
And I'm not an Omega level mutant, man. Like, you in that moment too, you can kind of understand why, if you are a human and you see this, you go, yeah, maybe I don't want maybe I don't want these people around. Because I mean, if that was coming my way, I'd be like, hey, what's up, Jesus? What's good? Oh, yeah,
Right.
Cyclops shot me in the face with his optic blast.
It's kind of the thing with Cap, right? It's like it's his training and his determination that are the most fearful parts of Scott. We're lucky that he's on our side because that
Yeah.
same determination and training can do some very deadly things if on the other side. And like I said, all of that stuff, super ruler cool, right? Like I don't know science for nothing, but I'm like, yeah, that would work. That's badass. That's cool.
Totally.
And then he lands and says to me, my X-Men, you get the little theme in the background. They all get behind him, style points. I'm like, these guys are the coolest. Again, I'm brought back to like the series, the games, the cards, right? All the cards. And I just remember being so deep in the fandom for this stuff, and then obviously, ripped up when they just stopped kind of doing it. I never really got into like, I think I saw Evolution, but I didn't think I got into Wolverine and the X-Men. I think I saw
Wolverine,
X-Men
the
Evolution.
X-Men.
Good stuff.
See, yeah, I highly recommend it. And talk about, like, for me, when they initially announced the idea of going back to continue a show, I
Mhm.
wanted them to continue Wolverine and the X-Men, because
Interesting.
this series did get an ending. It did.
Right.
It was rushed.
Wasn't
The
happy,
quality was.
but
It wasn't happy. It wasn't a happy ending. and people it was lackluster because of the animation and whatnot, but it had an ending. It finished. Wolverine and the X-Men had one season, and the season ended with the Age of Apocalypse starting, and then it was just like canceled. Like,
Yeesh.
no, go back and tell that story. I want Age of Apocalypse. I want to see where that goes.
What a
X-Men
cliffhanger.
finished. Right, right. But I mean, the animation on that show was great. The voice acting was solid. The way it was all built up. I wish they would go back and finish that. But
Maybe we'll cover that on here one of these days.
mhm, I definitely would like that.
So they do find Trask, who sicks several sentinels on our heroes. Luckily for them, this is not their first rodeo. So with a bit of help from Storm, they take out the fleet with expert technique, also managing to destroy a master mode computer. This is that moment with Logan and Gambit where they charge up the claws and behead
Oh,
the creature. But again, this felt like a highlight reel for these guys. Like just sentinels, like that's all y'all bringing. We do this
oh,
every
and that
Tuesday.
yes, and that's something I love, like to show that they're not looking at the Sentinels like, oh my god, we have to cower and hide behind stuff. No, like they were ready for this, and this was their putty patrol, right? This was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is
Oh,
Sentinels.
totally.
We're gonna wipe the floor with these guys. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
loved that. This reminded me. Were you a fan of the X-Men Legends games?
Yeah.
Did you play those back in the day?
Yeah.
I remember doing the combo moves where it'd be like
Oh, yeah.
psychic claws, or magnetic tongue lash or something. You know what I mean? So
I feel like they
seeing
bring that back, and I want to say, Ultimate Alliance maybe, where you're able
yes,
to like
yes.
shoot things and reflect off of other people and
Hmm.
charge and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah, you combo moves. You're doing these combo moves. And that is something very much in the Krakoan age of comic books right now, where that's something they're trained. They're constantly they in the Krakoan age now with comics, they're constantly building their teams with the fact of what powers work well together. Like, okay, you have an electric power and you have a water power. Ooh, how can we make that work? Or we have a telekinetic person and a person who can make weapons. Perfect. Make the weapons. She's chucking them at people. Perfect. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like that's what they do. So to constantly see here where it's like, Wolverine's charging into action. How do you make his claws even more deadly? Make them explosive. Gambit, charge
Yeah.
up the thing, charge up his claws. Oh, and wait, but the target is 400 feet in the air. Enough said. Morph, turn into the blob so we can trampoline off your fat ass and cut off
Yep.
the head of this dude.
Beheaded.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I could totally hear like combo just
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Like this was fantastic to watch. It was dynamic. It made sense. It showed that they're not just six people with powers working for a common good. They're literally working together. The
Yeah.
synergy is there. They're and they trained it. There was no panic in these scenes. There was, oh,
No.
okay, the master mode's here. That we got to do this. We got to do that. And then even when Wolverine, no, because what happens? I'm trying to not as many times as I've seen this, it all starts to mosh. When Storm, when Cyclops is just like, yo,
Oh, that's why I said from help from Storm. That's when she comes through and glasses the sand.
the whole and I love the fact that like now Storm is an Omega level mutant,
Yeah.
and then again that voice when they hey Storm, light him up, and then
Yep.
just she just immediately kicks into from the sands of
Yeah,
the desert.
it's so
And
great.
she's just walking, and lightning is
Yeah.
happening, and the lightning is hitting the sand and turning into glass, and then she just summons this massive tornado that's just shooting lightning. It's just like it just reminded me of like that Jerry Seinfeld skit where it's like, why does the Justice League need why do we need
Right.
the other members? We have Superman. So you're
Yeah.
watching this, and you can just imagine everybody else being like, all right, Storm, appreciate it. Wrap it up. All right. I guess
And
we're
and
done.
it's amazing because we talked about the X-Men stock now in live action versus the MCU, but like they could have done a Bring Me Thanos moment with Storm years ago. You know what I'm saying? Where the something's happening and all of a sudden all the skies get black and she just shows up as badass as she is. They could have owned the thunder, the thunder god stuff way long ago. It just bugs me out that they were so late to the game with it because they capitalized on it in here and it works without it works with no issue. Oh yeah, like I said, they're well-oiled machine. And another great thing about it is 5 episodes in, 10 episodes in, there's never a civil war. You
No.
know, there's never a petty squabbles. Like this is what other teams fight over, you know, is roommate stuff. These guys are actively fighting for their lives every day.
Yeah.
For their lives and the lives of the people who have the same genes as them. Like not the same gene, but the X gene. You understand? Like
Right. Yeah. I know what you mean.
it's never while Iron Man wakes up and may save somebody if he wants to that day, if they don't, their entire race might be extinct. The day
Yeah.
that they choose to stop policing, you know, or not policing, but defending, you know, their right to exist, they may be wiped off this planet. And that's why they're such a well-oiled machine. That's why every threat is Avengers level because they're not saving cats from trees. You understand? Like they're really doing it here. Um, but yeah, I really like to see them be like this because then it's a comic trope, right? You show them like this so that when they are against the ropes, you're like, damn,
Right.
whatever put them against the
It,
ropes, you know?
it's serious. It's
Yeah,
serious. It's not some because even watching the original series, which to me is why they did this to begin with, to have them mollywop these Sentinels was because
yeah,
you go back and watch the original series, man, the Sentinels used to put the beats on these guys.
yeah,
Even when they would come out triumphant and win, they came out like, oh man, costumes are ripped to pieces. A couple people are hurt. Morph dies in the first episode. Here it's like,
yeah,
oh, Sentinels, we got this.
yeah.
That's the hardest part about this was finding where they were at. Now that we know where we're at, we got this. We know how to take care of this.
I wonder if some of the style point stuff in this was them like, oh, we're like taking down the last Sentinel warehouse. Like let's have a little fun with this. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the
Could
last.
be.
This is the last of it all. We're gonna lock up trash. Let's have a little fun with this. But I completely dug all of that. They apprehend Trask, and seemingly the threat has been neutralized. Nothing to worry about. It's all over. Credits. Uh, the next day at the mansion, Scott tells the team that he and Jean are set to leave the X-Men. And as Jubilee questions, who will lead us? Everyone is surprised by the sudden appearance of Magneto, who tells the team that in his last will and testament, Xavier has left the school and the team to him to watch over as everyone stands there stunned. But imperfect, because I'm a writer and I love writing, imperfect thing, he's left all his hopes, his dreams, everything he's ever worked for, he's left to me, my X-Men.
My X-Men.
And like, first of all, him saying that line was akin to when you see John Walker with the shield, with Cap shield. And you're like, "What are you doing? What are you doing, bro?" You know that obviously
Put that down.
we'll feel better about him later on. But initially, I'm like, you don't get to say that. You don't get to say those lines. But this was something that was a bit spoiled. I think this is in the first trailer. But still an interesting twist nonetheless. And yeah, let's get into Mutant Liberation Begins, the PR episode for Magneto. So, Magneto begins his new tenure as leader of the X-Men by committing acts of good and saving humans and mutants alike around the globe in hopes of winning humanity's trust. He has a very sweet and also very badass moment with the Morlocks in the tunnel where they're going to go gun him down and he just like
Oh
bursts
man.
through and he's like, you won't even let them
Even
like live amongst your waste. Like that's where we're at now. You're filth. You got to come and get them down here. But he has this moment with Leech that gets echoed in the last episode that we're going to cover here today. But more importantly than that, um, I found a direct tie, and I think it's in X-Men 1 where he does kneel down to a kid and is like, you ain't got nothing to be afraid of anymore. Like Krakoa is safe, and you don't got
yep.
and like just to see that parallel there, knowing he was a frightened child, like legitimately persecuted for being different, first for being Jewish, and then for being a mutant. The idea that he has any part of him that's still tender, that can talk to a child, is something I guess I'd never thought about. And seeing
Well,
it is just it warms and breaks my heart because he still has that capacity.
I think it's a combination of one, the fact that Xavier would leave this to him, like, woo, which we'll get into in a little bit when he makes the speech that he makes.
Yeah.
where it's like, okay, this is not really what I want to do. I'm doing this because somebody else must believe in my ability to do this. And
Hmm.
two, as much as he's talking when he gets on his knees to that frightened child, a big part of him is saying it to himself. This is
Yeah.
someone who is heavily traumatized as a kid, who's this trauma has defined his entire life, his entire existence. So now,
Yeah.
as much as he's saying it to this kid, like, I will keep you safe, he's telling himself, like, okay, I can let go. I'm not this frightened kid anymore. This world will accept us. Somebody believes in me. I have a team now that hopefully will believe in me. I will prove to them that I can be trustworthy, and I will fall in line. I'm not just this hate monger that you dealt with for a few years. I'm someone,
Yeah.
I'm trying to change over. And as much as he's saying to that kid, look, I'm going to keep you safe, like he's telling himself and his kid in his head, right? Because we all have those traumas. You got to
Yeah.
tell yourself, look, I'm not going to let that define me. I'm not going to let that be the reason to be a jerk or an asshole. I'm going to be a better person because it's the right thing to do. It's the right way to be, right?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? What's He's already been warring with humanity for how long, and where has it gotten him?
Yeah.
So now he has a chance to do something different. So he has to embrace it, and to truly embrace it, he's out there. He's out there saving Ferris wheels, saving kids, going all over the planet and saving all these people. He's got to embrace it.
I feel like um what another interesting part about all this is that, like you said, he was given all this by Xavier, but he takes it almost as a dare. That's almost how he expressed it later on, like a challenge. Like he's been
Right.
challenged by Xavier to because Xavier sees this in him. Will he make Xavier a liar? Right? Like, will he make his best friend a liar by not being able to soar to the expectations that Xavier has? Because he wouldn't have given him this whole team if he didn't think he had it in him to be able to lead them.
Right.
So anything against that vision is against Charles Xavier, his fallen friend, and it would
Right.
disgrace that. So there's constant times leading all the way up to him, becoming Chancellor of Genosha, where he has to pause and say, what would Xavier do? And then come to where, what he's thinking about when it comes to all this. So the new Magneto reveals. Oh, sorry. Cyclops doesn't buy any of this for a second. He's very pissed
Nope.
off because he thinks the team should have been left to him, and he actually says, like, "Why didn't he leave the team to me?" Um, even though Magnus is way less murdery now, uh, and is more disappointed that Xavier didn't leave it to him. Like I said, Magneto reveals that he's been sending the mutants he has saved to the mutant island sanctuary of Genosha, a place where mutants are susceptible to the cruelties of humanity. This is just a trivia note. The new costume of Magneto, the dark purple, giant M, all that kind of stuff, is taken from Uncanny X-Men issue number 200, published in December of 1985. In this issue, Magneto is arrested and taken to the United Nations Court to be judged by his crimes, which also happens here.
I love that costume. I love that costume. I
The
got
gloves are a
into
bit much for me. I love the hair.
I
I love that the hair's all out and proud.
I love the hair. I love it. The whole everything. And it's
Yeah,
literally the costume from Uncanny X-Men number 200. I love it.
yeah.
I love it. I remember as a kid because I started collecting comic books heavily in starting in like 91, 92,
Okay.
right before
Oh,
the
big,
Jim
the
Lee
big,
era.
yeah,
I mean, Jim Lee was already on Uncanny X-Men, who had done some issues, but it was before
the number
the
one.
launch of X-Men number one. And so I had only seen these images in like old magazines or books that would chronicle the X-Men and stuff like that. And I remember when I saw that costume, I loved it. And this was before, of course, the internet and anybody really having soundboards for this stuff. But apparently that costume was hated. Like people hated this costume. People laughed at this costume, but I remember loving it, being like, "Oh, that's so cool looking. It's so loud and just in your face."
The
And why
M
is
is a
he
bit much. The M is a bit much. He didn't have to monogram it. He didn't have to.
I guess they wanted something, it's like cheesy looking and friendlier looking. Because I mean, look at this thing. You see
Yeah, that's a
that,
bit.
and
That's a bit much.
you're terrified of this.
Also, two
So
quick notes. Oh, I just want to say this real quick. Two quick notes that I figured out. One, I was like, oh yeah, he's rocking his hair out because he doesn't need the helmet because Xavier's not around. apparently that's a X-Men the first movie in 2000s thing. That was
Hmm.
not a comic thing nor a
Nope.
series thing. That was just for style points again, like I was saying, and possibly so he doesn't get sniped, even though he could stop a bullet. Um, yeah, so that's one. And the other thing is, in doing the research for all that, I realized that also he did not start off as a Jewish refugee. He was just a mustache twirling villain until Chris
Yep.
Claremont put the backstory of him. Sort of like for like 200 issues, he's just terrorizing these people, and then you find out he was a Holocaust survivor, and it just brings all the weight, crashing down on just everything. What an addition to the lore, you know. And then you had this outfit. But yeah, you were saying.
Hey, I love it.
I
I
ain't mad at
stand
it.
by that.
I ain't mad at it.
So no, so seeing him in this costume, one to show the world, look, I'm not this guy. I'm not the villain. This costume, I'm not wearing a helmet at all. He's not wearing a helmet. It's almost like to
No,
show, right?
more
What is J. Jonah?
human.
He's human. What does J. Jonah Jameson say? Why does he have to wear a mask? You don't have to wear a
Who's he hiding
mask.
from?
Who's he
Yeah.
hiding from? He's out there. Look, this is me. I'm Eric Lensher. You can see my face. I'm around here saving people. Wearing a friendly color and a big M. I'm here to be a good guy, and I'm totally here for it. I was so excited, and I really wanted it to last longer.
Yeah, we're actually live on YouTube right now. Super Spider Sonic J said, "Yeah, they got it from Juggernaut's helmet. Juggernaut's helmet was made to stop Xavier's psychic blast and applied it to Magnus as well. And yeah, in 1981, I believe they introduced his Holocaust survivor background. Spider Sonic J is super X-Men fan. We had him on here talking about Multiple Man, which is one of his favorite characters, Jamie Madrox. Madrox?
Right,
Madrox.
Madrox,
Um,
Madrox.
Madrox. I thought I was saying it right. Um, I was thinking about Brad Maddox, and then that made me think of Paige. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so um, I just love the idea that like he didn't tell anyone, right? I'm thinking about it, right? He didn't tell anyone he was putting on this new outfit. He just came out one day and
No,
they were like, "I made it myself."
that's
You know,
right.
it's like I
Even
made it myself, and I will not be taking questions. It's like, all right,
Magneto
bro.
can Magneto, can't you just use your magnetic powers to make a costume? I want it to matter more. I'm going
Yeah,
to
yeah, right.
sew. My mother taught me to sew.
Yes. He's just singing in Yiddish and he's sewing his clothes. Oh, that's amazing. So, in two separate tender moments, Jean confides in Storm that she hopes her child will be born human. So, I guess we'll put a pin in that. I love this conversation. Again, X-Men, I feel like more than almost any other Marvel property, lives and dies by the relationships, whether they're friendships or actual love relationships. You can name double digit either again romantic or bestie relationships in just the X-Men team as it stands.
Yeah.
When you think of the episodes that really rock you, it's episodes that test or put those relationships in danger. And it's almost elementary. Like of course, right? Like that's why you care about these characters. But why doesn't everyone create these interwoven sort of relationships in other media? You would think you would think that it would be this easy, but even in this moment, and obviously they shared multiple moments in the original animated series, but they made it a point in this to make them basically sisters and try to empathize with each other and try to see each other's point. And this idea that like I want my child to grow up human is such a it has to be a painful truth for her to admit. But the fact that she can trust Storm, like they're not just soldiers, or I mean, I say that as a former soldier, we used to confide in each other all the time. But what I mean is, they're not just co-workers, is what I'll say.
Right.
They're not just clocking in and clocking out. These are people living with each other, and they're living with each other's fears and insecurities as well. Um, Ironically, tragically, this conversation about what life would be like without powers is something Storm is gonna realize in this very episode. So she's
Well,
consoling.
she foreshadows it. She even says it herself.
Yeah,
She's like, "Oh, I have often wondered what it would be like to be human." You're about to find out.
it's a monkey's paw, bro. Monkey's paw. Better be careful with stuff like that. Um, so that's the first tender moment. In another, Rogue encourages Magneto to win over everyone's trust instead of demanding it. To our shock, the two hint at a previous secret and seemingly romantic relationship between the two, with Magnus asking what the others would think if they knew. This is when she says something like, "That cat's got to stay in the bag," or whatever. Like, okay. As a comic reader, was this ringing bells?
This whole
Rogue Magneto
dynamic.
thing? Yeah.
Well, yes, yes, because it is something at one point in the comics, Rogue, I believe it was, she loses her powers, and Magneto like takes care of her and realizes, oh wow, okay, we can touch and what's going on.
Right.
That was more like back issues for me. The first time I seen them have a actual relationship was in the Age of Apocalypse, which was
Yeah.
where what if Charles Xavier had died in the past and how it would have changed the future. Rogue and Magneto are married, in love, and have a kid, and they name
Oh
him
wow.
Charles. And then fast forward when you get to a character by the name of Joseph, who is this whole.
What is he,
Do you know anything
Share?
about Joseph? Do you know
No.
who Joseph is?
No.
Ooh. Ooh, you want to
So
talk about X-Men?
he's just Joseph?
His name is Joseph, and he's basically at first what everybody thought was, because after Magneto gets his mind wiped,
Hmm.
he's Magneto coming out of the coma as a new person, seemingly. It's a whole convoluted thing, but he finds a way to be able to touch Rogue by creating a device, and that kind of leads to a little romance there. But this was
Mm.
not shocking to see, because it's something that has been explored in the comics, and even in I think it was re-explored even later on, if you had ever read X-Men Legacy,
Yeah.
when she was at the leadership position in that story. So no, I was not shocking to see, but like it was not shocking to see, but at the same time, still like wow, like this story is really going. This cartoon is really going to be pushing boundaries. Now we have. It's bad enough that we still have the taste of the Wolverine, Jean, and Cyclops love triangle. Now we got Magneto, Gambit, Rogue love triangle going on.
Yeah.
Ooh, and how real is that? One person can promise to love you forever, but I can't touch you. The other person's like, I can touch you.
But it might not
What's
be
good?
forever. But
Might
it
not be
might not.
forever, and you may not really like me, but I can touch you.
Right.
And
Right.
for some people, that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
So
I um I I have to believe that DeMayo, he is using our knowledge of this series against us in a lot of ways, right? He knew that people were going to come in this and be like, Scott the Boy Scout, and gave him some badass moments. He
right.
knows how the fandom feels about Rogue and Gambit. He knows how the show ended with them, like, him confessing her love. I think they even kiss. I can't remember how exactly it's done, but there's like a shared moment between the two. So this is meant to give us the ick. This moment is meant to be like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I feel about this. And I think they played it very, very well, especially keeping it kind of coy, like not just unloading the whole thing. Um, Members of the UN believe that Magneto should pay for his violent crimes and arrive at the mansion to apprehend him, even though he's being seen as a new symbol of hope for mutants. He goes willingly. I'm gonna pause it right here because I just want to say it instead of just describing it. First of all, love this scene. Actually, love this scene for two reasons. One, it reminds me of the moment in X-Men 2000 when all the cops show up and he turns the
Oh, mm-hmm.
guns
Uh-huh.
so easily. But like they show up and they're like, "Hey, and you better not do nothing because all these guns you can't control a single gun here. They're all plastic or whatever. Like none of them got a single bit of metal in them. So you better stand down." So he just mans the helicopters and turns them on their sides and creates like death weapons, just
Like,
big propellers, just that would chop these people
that's
to
right.
ribbons, to
Shoot me.
ribbons.
Have fun with the helicopters.
But he does this as like don't get it twisted. I'm only gonna go if I want to go. You understand? Like, yeah, y'all here with these guns don't mean nothing to me. Because if you think that was gonna stop me, look what I can do.
Right.
Kind of stuff. Again, it's very similar to the move turning the guns around. Like, he could have turned the guns around and shot at everybody, but he did it on purpose, right? So it's like the show of force when it comes to Magneto, and I love in this episode, and I feel like also in Remember It, he is just a pot boiling. Like his
Mm-hmm.
patience for humanity. He doesn't. He's not quite Xavier again, right? Like his patience is. He's just like 1, 2. Like he's trying to remember his numbers and just count
Wusa,
himself. Yeah, bro.
wusa,
And
wusa.
this is definitely one of those moments. Like in this
I mean,
moment,
you
you
got to
know,
remember this is a dude who has concentration camp numbers carved into his skin. This is
right?
not a dude who's you don't forget that. You don't forget that.
And these
So
people are
this
threatening to lock him away. They've now shown up, jackbooted thugs with guns.
and
to,
prepared. Oh, like even though yeah, he was able to turn it on them, but look how
yeah,
prepared they were to encounter Magneto. So what does that
yeah.
tell him? Like, oh yeah, yeah. You guys see I'm saving people all over the world, yet you still got these special guns
You're having
designed to
PowerPoint
kill me.
classes, right? About like how to take
That's right.
Magneto out. Kind of stuff
Utilizing
is
utilizing the plastic AR-15 version of the 7912 Earth. You know that like
thanks for that idea,
they
Bill. Thank you.
perfect. Appreciate that one.
Everyone buy a 3D printer. We're gonna figure this whole thing out.
You know?
So yeah, again, willingly, right? He willingly goes, hoping to earn their trust in a fair trial. While he's on trial, the Friends of Humanity rear their ugly heads as people protest outside. We'll get more into that in a bit. Magneto pleads his case, stating that he's turned over a new leaf and can't be blamed for his hard edges given his upbringing. He reiterates that he is working towards Xavier's dream of coexistence. While that's going on, Jean suddenly begins to give birth, so Logan rushes her to the hospital. But this is that first, like, pleading his case sort of speech, where he
Mhm.
talks about, and again, man, like, again, the dialogue and just the gravitas of the voice, where he's like, me and my family had our house burnt down because we called God by a different name.
Right.
And I was
That's
like,
deep. And if that doesn't hit with what everything that's going on right
yes,
now,
yeah,
you know, to say something like that, like Matthew Waterson is this is where like, and I feel bad that I can't remember the original voice actor's name, but Matthew Waterson right now, this is where he became Magneto's voice to me because he just starts dropping line after line in these speeches. The way he hits back at these people, one of whom I was very excited to see finally introduced into the X-Men cartoon, Valerie Cooper. Valerie Cooper is a
okay,
character I love from the X-Men. She's been around
interesting.
for quite some time. She's the like the handler for the US government, the same way that if you guys know um Amanda Waller, the way Amanda Waller handles Suicide Squad, Valerie Cooper handles mutant groups teams for the government.
So she's a
She
liaison.
the liaison exactly. So
Okay.
she's the one that activates her. From what I recall, she doesn't totally realize it, but she's the one that turns the Mystique's Brotherhood into Freedom Force.
Oh, okay. New
She
rebranding.
right, and then she's the one that becomes the handler for the. I think she worked with the original X Factor team, which was the original team, Cyclops. I think she kind of worked with them a little bit, but then she
Mhm.
becomes like the direct handler for the later X Factor team of Havoc, Strong Guy, Multiple Man,
Okay.
Wolfsbane, etc. So like I love that X Factor run by Peter David. So she was a center a piece of that team. So seeing her now in this series, I was like, oh, cool. We're getting into that. Which maybe we'll get more X Factor because we had X Factor in the original series, and I love when they got introduced, and I hated that we only got to see them in that one episode. In this
Right.
series, as we can see how quickly they're going into all the expanded lore of the show, I'm like, ooh, we're gonna get some Havoc, we're gonna get some Polaris. What's good?
Yeah.
So seeing her and like her, her, she's giving it right back to Magneto, and understandably, like it's a back and forth. Like I said earlier, you kind of got to see. I only play devil's advocate just to understand better. Like I was saying earlier, when Cyclops uses power, the way he uses power just to defend himself, not even in an offensive way, to save
Yeah.
himself. And you're a regular person, and you see that, that's
Yeah.
terrifying. So
What if there
you
was a city
understand,
underneath him and he didn't care?
right?
Right? He's like, well,
Exactly. Exactly. Right. Oh yeah, Magneto, you use your powers to save that Ferris wheel. What if somebody
yeah.
pissed you off and you decided to chuck that Ferris wheel at the rest of the circus? You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's really interesting that you put it that she's playing devil's advocate because even though she is for mutant rights, she has to play hardball for her constituents,
Right.
for everybody else on the table who's not convinced. If she doesn't at least try to persecute this madman, he was a madman, man. Like, I know we're like 2 episodes in and we're kind of digging him, but he did do some crazy stuff. Um, and if she doesn't do that, she loses respect for her peers. The X-Men go nowhere. They never get brought into the UN, any of that kind of stuff. So she almost has to play this act, to kind of get them exactly where she wants them, which is like, that's interesting. Yeah, I think I thought that. Hey, thanks, John, thanking us for a good stream. Thanks, Broski. Um, so yeah, I'd never seen this character before, but I thought she was an interesting, almost conscience. She's the person speaking about how humans are viewing all the actions of the X-Men, and you seem to know that she's gonna lead to some stuff. So I'm interested in seeing where that character goes in general. But um, the FOH burst in with their weaponry and cause a riot. Rogue takes Cyclops to Jean to be there for the birth, and Storm takes charge of the situation at the courthouse. At the hospital, the doctor refuses to work on Jean because she's a mutant. I'm like, scumbag. And again, they know that that's gonna tick us off. Like, they know they set that up, but like, there were hospitals that wouldn't treat minorities. There were hospitals that wouldn't treat gay people or trans people. There's still hospitals that won't treat trans people. You
Yeah.
understand? So like, that's a very real thing. They were saying something about like black women's mortality rate with pregnancies is ridiculous because for years hospitals wouldn't even take them,
Nope.
or gave them the cheapest medication, or gave them, like these botched surgeries and all this other kind of stuff because they thought of them as lesser. I think I even saw something where there was like they thought they had a higher pain tolerance at one point. They thought black people for some reason were genetically predisposed to be able to take more pain than a normal person. So like, this is not cartoonish. This is
No.
real life stuff here.
This is art imitating life.
Yeah.
You
How
know?
do you feel in that moment? As someone
No.
who's had children, right? Like,
Oh my
this is the
God.
most
Like,
important moment of your life. But yeah,
oh yeah, like in that moment, and I love the fact that this is where even though we have Boy Scout Cyclops, he turns to Rogue. He's like, "Yo,
we ain't got time for
just
this.
we ain't got time for this, man. Just touch him and learn everything." And like there was some hesitation, and he's just kind of like, "This is my baby, man. We ain't got time.
Yeah,
We don't have time for an Xavier speech to change this dude's mind. The baby's coming. The baby's already on its way. We're past.
yeah.
We'll deal with the ramifications of this later. Just suck this dude's brain dry, please." And just a quick fast, I want to go back to real quick. I love the when Wolverine is called upon to drive Jean
Yeah,
to the hospital, and he immediately jumps into action. Right, he jumps into action. Is it apocalypse?
yeah.
And she's like, "No, the baby. No, the baby's coming." And like that's more frightening. Like a
A
baby,
baby.
you know?
Yeah, I love
I
Gene
just love
going
that.
through contractions and flipping the car, like ripping parts off the
Yeah,
car.
yeah, car, yeah.
Yeah.
And taking control of the car, just be like, "Yeah, we got to get to this baby." So Wolverine's just like lost in this. Like, I give me something to stab.
Friend of the show, Jessica Crawford says it's really reminiscent of giving birth during COVID. You got to imagine there was some pretty weird procedures and during lockdown, and to fear that you're not going to get the kind of treatment that you want because everyone is terrified that there's an airborne disease going out there. Like, I couldn't put myself in Scott's mind in that moment as he's hoping that his child is not only born but born healthy and born by doctors who actually want to treat him, kind of stuff. So with the humans in danger because of the FOH crossfire, Magneto and Storm built an electronic cage for their opponents. One of the members of the Friends of Humanity is a man called Executioner, and I believe that he the star of the infamous Executioner song? Am I connecting the right dots there?
Nope,
He's not the star of that.
nope.
Is it? I thought I figured it out. His outfit's ridiculous, but I love it. As a hate monger's
I
outfit,
love it.
he should look ridiculous. He should look like a Klansman. Basically, he looks
I
like a Klansman.
he's really just like much like in the comics when he first shows up. He's much just this dude who's pretty well trained, can make some weapons, get to hold some tech, and just hates mutants and wants to just neutralize them, take them out. He
Yeah.
just wants to execute them. I really, because this was deep diving. This is a deep dive of a villain. This is a villain who's maybe shown up. If he's shown up 10 times in the comics, I would be surprised. But when he does
Interesting.
show up, he's there, he's equipped, and he's trying to he's not he's this isn't somebody who's just I want to beat you guys and show you I'm better. He's trying to take out mutants. So I really like that they combined it
Yeah.
into this
Combined.
into this. I was really excited too because this show was really doing a good job of not just continuing the story, but reminding you that you're in the 90s, and Executioner was a 90s character. He came,
Yeah.
I believe he first appeared following the Executioner song. Like he came out maybe like a couple months after the Executioner song. So
Ah,
seeing him here was just like, oh man, like 90s characters. Yes, this is cool. Like they're not just putting in the 90s, but then saying, oh, what cool character from 2000s, 2005, 2010 can we pull and put him back into the 90s or something like that? No, we're going to use 90s characters. So seeing him show up in this, I was very excited. And I like that he was not just a villain that they could just smack around. Like
yeah.
he puts up a fight. He's
Right.
and he's talking crap the whole time he's doing it. I love the fact that when he's beating up on Cyclops, he's like, "We just hate hearing you guys complain and sniveling and all this stuff." And I'm thinking, how hypocritical
Yeah.
is his
But those are
complaint
things you
right now?
see. Those are things you see on Facebook posts. Those are things you
Yeah,
see in
yeah.
YouTube comments. All you guys
Right.
all you people do is
We have no
complain,
problem
right?
with you being gay. We don't want to know about it. We don't want to see
Yeah.
you putting it out there
Yeah.
like
So
this.
it's so blatant there. Um, I was gonna say also, David Hemblin was the original voice for Magneto in the animated series. He passed away in 2007.
Very sad.
So Executioner uses a power neutralizer to shoot at Magneto, but Storm, seeing the blast, jumps in front of it, taking the full blast. And again, like there's several moments in this where I'm like, go off, kill them all, I don't care. And this is
And I
one
mean,
of those moments.
even before, again, a beautiful show of the way that people can use their powers together. I love that, Storm, Magneto brings down these lightning rods, boom, 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 and just sets up, okay, Storm, you know what to do now. You bring the lightning, I'll bring the electricity, and we're gonna make a force field. Like, I love seeing the synergy.
Yeah,
And then seeing her take a bullet for this guy. Because even before then, the speech she gives, where she's
oh
like, yo,
yeah,
take off the power collar on this guy. And they're like, no, he's a criminal. This and that. If you want to survive this, you're going to take the collar off of this guy right now.
yeah.
Because he's the only person that can save everybody in this room right now. I can't
She
do this alone.
commands that whole situation.
Yes.
And not only does she command it, she commands it with his respect. Earlier in the episode, he calls her a goddess.
That's right.
Or the closest thing to come to a god. I believe that there's definitely mutual respect in that situation. And
Two Omega level mutants just like looking each other in the eye, like, I got you, you got me.
you
we're
attend,
good.
yeah. There's a bunch
You're
of
10,
tens
no,
in
I'm
the room.
11.
Yeah. That. But yeah, man. And then like Magneto looking at her and then looking at the guy who shot him, I'm like, oh, it's a wrap. And
Well, I
he
mean,
puts him on the coin.
it was painful. It was genuinely painful because we know
Yeah.
Storm, right? From the moment we're reintroduced to this character in that first scene where she's teaming up with Cyclops way back when they're fighting the Friends of Humanity in that warehouse. The way she pours in, and oh, Storm showed up. The way she takes out the Master Mold, the way even in this, the command of the room, to then see her rolling off of the stage powerless like a newborn kitten, and she's just writhing in pain, and I can't feel the wind.
Yeah.
Like, Magneto sees that and goes, yo, you just paralyzed not just a person who I'm hoping to call my friend, and I already respect regardless of that title, but a goddess. You took away her powers, and a fellow mutant that was meant for me.
Yeah.
Oh hell no. Oh hell! Like,
Yeah.
just like you were saying before, that he's just at that tipping point, right? He's at the tipping point,
Yeah.
and this was okay. It's a wrap. I'm done. He throws this dude on that coin. The Executioner, he throws him on that coin. He immediately envelops what would you go, the board, the head board members, right? Like Valerie
Yeah.
Cooper and a couple of people, and
Yeah,
just
I put it as those meant to judge him, right? Like that's who he brought up there with him, the guy and those meant to judge him, almost to be like, you're mad at me. This is an example right here of what we're dealing with every day. Right
Mhm.
here, you just saw it. You just saw him come through. You saw them come through, destroy the courthouse. You saw, her get shot. And again, like you got to imagine how triggering this is for him, right? Again, more jackbooted, masked men persecuting with weapons, a place he thought he was safe at, and then seeing someone he cares about, or even in the most tangential fashion in terms of respect, someone he respects getting gunned down, in that instance. And again, like you said, and that was meant for me. Like you were coming for me, bro. A wrap, a wrap. He grabs the executioner and the rest of those meant to judge him at his trial and takes him into the sky. He explains that it's taking every bit of energy he can not to inflict the same pain and hatred that humanity has brought upon his people to them, but he was challenged by Xavier to be a better man, and he will be. Obviously, that's a real truncated version. He calls them everything from bigots to liars to
Mhm.
everything under the sun. He puts his boot right above their heads.
Right above that dude's face, right above the executioner's face. Like I can squash you like an ant, right?
Yeah,
Which was he doesn't say that, but the imagery's there, and
yeah,
that reminded me in X2 of when Ian McKellen beautifully says to Pyro, "You are a god among ants." Look
yeah,
what this dude has just done, and I love the fact that before he goes off in that beautiful scene where all you see is basically like this much of his face, and you
yeah,
see a tear run down his mouth face. You see a tear
yeah.
run down his face. This dude just wants to kill these people.
So
That's
much,
all he wants to do.
so
He's like,
much.
I just want to flatten you, but I'm going
Yeah,
to restrain myself. Why? Because of a dare. Because of a
yeah,
dare, a challenge that like I
yeah.
will not just destroy this planet because he shows them the planet. He goes, look, my friend told me, look, we share this planet. Let's share it. There's look at it. There's plenty of space for
Yeah, he
all of
says something
us.
like, "You don't need to love us. You just need to acknowledge that the world is a place to be shared." You know. But again, because I love wordplay, because he has them all up in the air and stuff like that. He's like, "I'm trying my best to be a good guy. Don't let me let you down."
Down,
And that has a
figuratively
double, yeah,
and
double meaning right there.
literally.
I will let your ass down. Because if I let Charles down, it's basically akin to letting you guys down right now. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I
Mhm.
could be that guy, the guy you think I am. You know, all of it, the restraint, all of it. And again, Storm wakes up, like you were saying, she's heartbroken. She realizes she can no longer control the weather and the elements, the voice acting. Again, a woman's voice who is so boisterous and confident and powerful, motherly. One could even say like Mother Nature herself. Uh, you know, they do that twice, right? The I can't feel it, and it hits both times. It just
Mhm.
hits both times, and I'm like, God. And again, I'm like, this is episode two. Like I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm like, what are we getting into? So, back with the Summers clan, Jean and Scott named their son Nathan Charles Summers, and later Magneto is not only pardoned by the UN for considering, not only pardoned, but the UN is considering entering Genosha into the United Nations. Cyclops warms up to Magneto as leader, but Magnus warns him to stay vigilant. After some experiments, Beast deduces that Storm may never get her powers back as the effects from the gun seem permanent. They do the thing from Breaking Bad, and I think that happens in other shows where like someone's given a death sentence by a doctor, and all of a sudden they can't hear anything else anymore. They just everything becomes kind of static. That was heartbreaking, you know, and they're heartbreaking because Beast didn't want to say it. Like he's like,
Right.
well, because of the experiments, and I'm thinking, and there's like whatever. Just say it. He's like, yeah, I don't think it's coming back. Um, so in the dead of night, Storm leaves the X Mansion, leaving a tearful goodbye letter to Jean. This is also when Gambit kind of gets a glimpse of Magneto hanging out with Rogue, and he's not digging it. Um, Magneto tells everyone they will respect her decision to leave when suddenly the doorbell rings. Oh, who could it be? When they open it, it is Jean Grey, who faints, but not before asking for the X-Men.
While
Were
Jean
you?
Grey is in the
Yeah,
background.
just
Like,
standing right there. Did you? Was this another like? Oh, they're doing it.
yes, and this was not something I was excited for because I hate Madeline Pryor.
Okay. I
I
got
hate it.
no background on that character. I was aware of this story, but was always told not to read it. I don't know many people who are huge fans of Inferno. That was to the point that when they did it recently, I think people were still like, "Oh my God, why?" Like, kind of stuff. Um, I remember all this being told to me as being very convoluted. Um,
Yes.
but but I don't have any knowledge of it. I guess before we get it fully into it, do you think that this truncated version is better?
Yes.
Just instant. No, no,
It's
you didn't have to think
yes.
twice.
Nope. Not only is it better because it better explains who Madeline Pryor is, it
Hmm.
also helps this guy,
Yeah,
Cyclops,
yeah, yeah.
save face. Because the way the comics does it is he's a complete jackass. The convoluted history of who Madeline Pryor is, because Chris Claremont had one idea for her, whereas the editors wanted something else. When Jean Grey dies at the end of the Dark Phoenix saga, that was the end of her story.
Yeah.
And because Cyclops was such a good guy, they were like, how do we still give this guy a happy ending though, right? His girlfriend
Yeah.
just killed herself for the sake of the universe. And now he's just got to like wane and be alone for the rest of his life. That was love of his life. So where Claremont wanted to do it, he wanted to do it that he just happens to meet like that 1 in a million person who's just like the girl he fell in love with,
Hmm.
marry her and have kids, and that was going to be like the end of his story. But then once they announced that, hey, we're bringing Jean Grey back to life, because I know this makes no sense, but they Jean Grey comes back in the pages of Fantastic Four. Um, there that then becomes, well, if Jean Grey's back and that's the love of his life, what do you want me to do with this character now? Because I'm pretty sure they didn't even want Madeline Pryor. He didn't want Madeline Pryor to be the love interest. I think it was supposed to be a character called Lee Forrester, who was like another,
Interesting.
like just like a background character that they were kind of building up to be the other love interest, something
But
like
the
that.
biggest
It's
the
rare.
biggest thing that you're saying though is that she was always Madeline. She was not Jean, or she didn't think she was Jean up
No, yeah,
front.
yeah, 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 yeah. Like no,
She was
exactly,
always a
exactly.
wholly
She was.
original person.
Yes, yes, not like this, and I that's why I like the way they did it here, where okay, this makes sense. This whole swap of clones, and who knows when they were swapped. Where so Madeline Pryor is a legit character for years, years, like working with the X-Men. She's like the human character on the team. They give her stuff. She's like the radio person from base, and she's
She's like
always in the
more
back.
Moira a little bit.
Yeah,
Like how
exactly.
Moira gets on the, yeah.
Exactly. And she doesn't want really anything to do with this, but she loves this guy. And this
Yeah.
guy's constantly being like, hey babe, it's kind of like right,
Yeah.
right. The guys need me.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
constantly in
Yeah.
the comics, but they need me for this one extra mission. Oh, they
Yeah.
need me to do this one more thing. Oh no, it turns out that some of them are missing. I'm gonna go help them out. Oh, by the way, my ex-wife is alive.
Yeah.
um, I'm gonna start hanging out with the team a lot more
Oh, because they
now.
were also in like Alaska or something, right?
Yes,
Like they
yeah,
were
yeah, he
far.
yeah, yeah, because he goes and retires because that's where he's from. He's from Alaska. He goes and he moves in with his like grandparents
Right.
to get away from the team. Like he quits the team and meets her up there. They get together, and for a long time, she is around and slowly watching her man like abandon, because during this time they have the child, they have Nathan. And even during, all right, babe, you gotta take care of this kid anyway. So I'm gonna go help the team then. I'm gonna go help the team. And then eventually Jean comes back. Oh, gotta go help the team, and yeah, I'm gonna hang out with Jean Grey for a little bit. Like what?
Not only that, like you just said, the entire reason why he's in Alaska is because he's decided he doesn't want to be on the X-Men anymore.
Right,
So it's
right.
like, what's that dude's name? Is it Tom Brady? Is that what he did?
Yeah. I'm gonna retire, baby. It's gonna be all about you. It's gonna be all about you,
Forever.
but all about the kids.
And his
After
family.
three
Sorry.
after 3 months, he was like, you know
The
what?
team
I
needs
rather
me.
the team needs me. I'd rather be sweating and getting my ass kicked than being home and raising a kid. Like, who wants
To
to do
me, my
this?
Patriots.
Exactly. Super hot wife, retired life, not dealing with sweaty men and
He won the lotto
referees. And
twice. He won the lotto twice. Scott did. Like he had a gene and she died, and seemingly another gene fell into his lap.
yep. Right.
Bonkers.
And exactly. And then they turned it into this whole, now understandably, like Madeline starts to go crazy, and then they start to that's when they came up with the idea of, ooh, let's make her the clone, and she's modified, and Sinister is doing all these things, because this was over a long period of time. I want to say this was a few years of storytelling where it was, all right, how do we make this all fit? And
Yeah.
this series does it in what, 2 episodes?
One.
Fantastic. I
I mean, like half of an episode, I guess you would say, was the previous, and then this one.
yeah.
Basically done at the end of this one. And I like the story told in here. I think that the real hook for this story is the idea that I don't know why. I don't know why it affected me as much as it did. I guess it's just the way the dialogue laid it out. But this idea that now it's not just that she remembers Jean's life, like she remembers how she felt in the moments
Right.
of the memories. I don't know why when they described it like that, I was like, oh damn. So to them they are. Like you can't, well, how do you
Right.
convince them that they're not? Like if I
Right.
remember how I felt when I was 5 and I stubbed my toe, and now you're telling me, oh, I never was 5. I never experienced that. I didn't experience high school, but I can remember. I can name teachers. I can tell you my first crush, and you're telling
Right.
me. Not only are you telling me that you're the real me, but you don't remember any of the things I do.
Right.
So who's really, like you? Who you finna tell me any of this kind of stuff? Ah, I thought it was so good. Let's get in it. So this is Fire Made Flesh. When everyone is shocked about the two genes, Hank uses science to figure out that the one at the door is the actual Jean Grey, and the one that we've been following since episode 1 is a clone. Clone Jean is furious at the accusation and betrayed that Scott even considers it. And I think he says something, and Scott doesn't even say. You talk about somebody who's doing the most with the least. You can't even see Scott's eyes, but sometimes his looks, right? And
Mhm.
you're like,
Just the way his mouth moves, like,
yeah, it's like Scott. You obviously don't believe him, right? And he's like, and I'm like, and she's like, oh, unless she's like, Storm would have believed me, and she walks out.
exactly. But how, talk about bad bedside manner, right? Like this isn't like, oh, by the way, you got like pink eye or something. This
Oh,
is,
right.
I'm gonna announce in the middle of the
To
room,
everyone.
hey you're the fake. Like,
Hey guys, look what I found. Turns out
whoa.
that one's a clone.
I know you just gave birth and you're probably dealing with some postpartum depression, and we're dealing with
Right.
all this craziness of this guy coming in and being the leader, but you're a fake person.
Oh, I think that's something that kind of goes under the radar. It did for me on the first watch. When I watched it the second time, it really hit. Was Nathan a couple days old? A week, if you wanted to give him that? Possibly
Wait,
hours old?
yeah, I was gonna say, like, he's probably at most a day old.
So all that happens with him when you think of like just having that child a day, it's so crazy. Um, so she storms off, hurt that the team doesn't know her. Scott says they have to be sure and tries to comfort her, but he fails miserably because everything he's saying is just the worst stuff. Clone Jean holds her son close, but is haunted by a voice from beyond that speaks through the baby monitor and claims to have answers. Spooky stuff. Really, really like this talking to the monitor stuff.
And you immediately recognize that voice.
Yep. So does Hank, because after studying the clone's cells, he figures out that she was made by dun 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 the
Um,
villainous Mr.
Mr.
Sinister,
Sinister.
Nathaniel Essex. Sinister even taunts clone Jean, explaining that he created her for the sole purpose of creating Nathan. He penetrates her mind with thoughts of what it took to create her and then uses his will to control her. And suddenly, the clone Jean snaps and begins to destroy her surroundings. Cloaking herself in a black outfit, the Goblin Queen herself vows revenge on the X-Men. I think I have that line about 4 different times. Vows revenge on the X-Men in this synopsis. Everyone's just vowing their revenge. Oh, and if you've seen Madeline in the comics, bit of a modest look here. But
Right?
she's
Yeah.
mostly clothed in this. In the
Hey,
comics, she has
hey,
like a
what's
loincloth.
yeah, basically it's like a loincloth, panties, and then like some people like to, because nowadays people love to give flack to Emma Frost for the stuff that she wears.
Yeah.
Madeline, like, how does it come from the top? And
What do you
it's
think was the
crazy.
idea there? Was just like was it like Jean was the girl next door, so her evil clone had to be the exact opposite?
Exactly.
kind of stuff there.
Exactly.
Okay.
The Jean Grey, always was fully clothed. She was always the innocent girl. This is the naughty girl. This is the girl that's on the car calendar on top of the hood of the car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just wanted to go the whole other route with her. So you can, and also it helps you clearly see who the bad person is in the comic too. Like, oh look, the one that's scantily clad, bad. Good
Right.
person, clothed. You know,
Yeah, they totally would do that. She's still cute though. I think I could fix her. But
she's not that toxic.
no, no, no.
But
Come on,
no, but
girl.
we see,
She's a
but see,
hug.
but see, honestly, just like in the comics, as much as I didn't like the storyline, you understand why this person would flip out like this.
Totally.
You want
Yeah, yeah.
you
I
totally
didn't
get it.
again knowing that she does become a villain. It didn't hit me until I felt her betrayal of the team, sort of saying, Have a good night, Spider Sonic, my boy Jason. Have a good night." I, I, I felt that betrayal because we were just hanging with her. We were just us as viewers, right? We're just
Mhm.
hanging with Jean.
Not just
So
hanging with her,
yeah,
watching her give birth.
yeah,
Like that's personal. That's intimate. And now we're
yeah,
just gonna look at her and go, "Oh, no, you're a
yeah, yeah.
genetic you're a petri dish."
Not only that, but where do you go next? Because Jean has filled the Jean-sized hole. She's back. So now what? You understand? Are we just to discard you, take your baby, and discard you? So out of nowhere, all throughout the mansion, our heroes are taunted by their worst fears made real. When they regroup, Scott realizes that these are psychic projections coming from the clone. Jean arrives and saves the day, but the Goblin Queen arrives and makes her new name known by threatening anyone who follows her and Nathan with more psychic nightmares. She leaves and takes Nathan with her. Luckily for our team, but unfortunately for him, Morph has had some prior dealings with Sinister and leads the Magneto-led X-Men team to where the Mad Geneticist is. And those prior dealings were shown in the original animated series when Morph was thought to be dead and he was cloned by Sinister and then used for nefarious reasons. I felt like there was a bit of almost like not survivor's guilt, but like he's a victim of abuse, and like all this
Mhm.
came back to him, seeing
Of
his
course.
abuser and dealing with his abuser and stuff, like that harrowing stuff right there. And then again, like I'm watching this series. Again, there's imagery on there. I'm like, oh, this is a little bit scary. This is kind of pushing the thing. I don't know why, but him putting Nathan in that goo freaked me out.
It did.
Freaked me
I
the
was like,
hell out.
just bloop.
I'm like, we already experiment. Like he just got the baby. He's like, all right, know what to do with it. Plunk. So he's
You know,
already experimenting on Nathan while the Goblin Queen guards the metaphorical door. Her and Magneto engage in an amazing battle. I say amazing because like, yo, the stained glass. He
yeah,
shattered all the
yeah.
stained glass, just rips him to ribbons. I'm like, oh my god! And he's doing well himself, but he's outmatched in this situation. I guess she's just more angry.
She's more angry, and again, I mean, Magneto's looking at her like a fellow mutant. He's just walking in on this still. So he
Yeah,
doesn't want to kill her. He's probably even feels her pain. Like, oh, you're in pain like me, right?
right.
Your whole life has just been ripped apart. I know what that's like. I'm not
Yeah,
trying to sit here and kill you. Whereas she just looks at all the X-Men like, you have all just chosen to discard me, right? Like you said,
yeah,
you're allowing this original gene to just come in, and now I am not a person. I don't matter. Who am I? What's all this going on? And by the way, I got this, beautifully voiced Mr. Sinister by Chris Britton over here, really just gnawing into my brain, right? And which we're gonna
yeah,
see he's got stuff planted in her head. So that's probably also not just her, it's also him pushing her to this limit. And yeah, I mean, there were a couple times where I was like, "Oh, Magneto's about to take a hit," and because he's Magneto, he doesn't, but still pretty damn close.
yeah. It got rough there for a bit. So Cyclops intervenes. I love like he shoots her in the back, and he's like, "I'm so sorry."
Right, right. My bad. I'm sorry, baby.
Jean forces the Goblin Queen into a mind-bending psychic warfare. through this, they realize that they had the same exact memories. And later, when she's reminded of giving birth to Nathan, she's able to break free from Sinister's control. What I liked about this is not only did they realize they had the same memories, but Jean is incredibly empathetic in this moment. She's more than she probably needs to be, more than Madeline probably deserves in this moment. But Jean really does sympathize with her, sit with her, eye to eye, level to level, and gets it. There's so often times where they're like, I don't understand why this guy's flipping mad, Mojo Jojo. I don't get why he's why he's gone crazy. It's like no, there's a real reason. You don't know, but there's follow the breadcrumb trail. But in this instance, she sympathizes with her. It's almost the thing that B says earlier about Charles giving Magneto the seat, right? This idea that the quickest way to get rid of an enemy is to turn him into a friend,
Yeah.
right? So in this moment, she's doing something similar. She almost disarms her with love, with
Right.
understanding, and
A
quite
little more
frankly,
kindness.
you can. You can, and that's kind of the message of the X-Men in general, combating all their hate with just being transparently good. No hidden motives, no hidden agendas and stuff. This really spoke to me because I've never been a real big X-Men the Animated Series Jean fan. Maybe it was the hairdo, but like that character never like spoke to me. She was constantly fainting and stuff, and Jean and all that. She was oddly, while being an Omega level mutant, a damsel in distress. Strangely, at moments
Yeah.
on that show.
Well, I mean, she had to be. She had to be because she could play a plot device.
Yeah,
There are a lot of things in the original show that you're like, man, if Jean were here,
right.
this would be really easy to solve. And it's like, well, how do we get rid of Jean? How do we get her off the table? Oh, she does something, it was too much for her and she passes out, right?
We call
That's
that
what
we call that getting Professor X in the movies.
Yeah, right?
In almost
Exactly.
every single movie, they
Not
find a way
almost
to pass him out,
everyone.
knock him out, take his powers, mind control him. He's always got to be off the table because if he's on the table, he got it. He's gonna take it over.
Oh no,
Unless he's
what do
on
we
the
do?
other, unless he's on the
What this guy?
Egyptian table, because when he's on the Egyptian table, he loses his hair for some reason. I don't know what's going on.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's
Oh
nothing
yeah.
wrong with
I listen. I'm nothing against not having hair, but I always thought it was strange that he lost his hair in the energy transference in the film for some strange reason. I thought it was a choice. Like own it, bro. Own it. I own it. But anyway, um, yep. So even though they managed to save him, Nathan is exposed to the techno-organic virus that will plague the character forever. Beast tells them that there is no cure, but hoping there's a cure in the future. The question is poised as to whether they should allow Bishop to take young Nathan to his time. Cyclops outright refuses. Beautiful again voice acting of like, I will not be like my father, right? Like I will not leave this child behind. I'm like, damn, Scott, you've never been that vocal about like it's always like, we gotta weigh the pros and the cons kind of thing. It's like, nah, this one, this one I got emotional stakes on. This one we ain't doing. I'm not doing it. And eventually he realizes that it's what must be done, but he never verbally agrees to it.
No,
The most he says is, I'm not gonna be here for this. And he
right.
walks away. Really,
It's
really
rough. It's rough. I mean, who
again, what
your
hours?
newborn son?
Hours?
Let's say even if it was days, what 2 or 3 days? That's rough. That's
Yeah.
rough. I hate not seeing my kids for a day, and now you're about to send your son to a future where you're probably
Who
not going to see
knows?
him again. You're probably
Yeah,
not
who
going to
knows
see
what's
him
gonna
again.
happen?
And who knows he's even going to survive this. You know, so at the very least, you want to be with your kid through his existence, and now you're okay. I hope he survives.
It's
Goodbye.
really showing that pressure of having to make those decisions. You know, it's really showing how it weighs on Scott. He's terrified of making the wrong one, and I don't blame him because again, lives are on the line, and in this particular instance, the life of someone he loves. Not to mention he's already dealing with the backlash of, quite frankly, realizing everything else about Madeline Pryor and Gene
No,
and stuff. Like,
think about how much stuff has happened in like a week.
yeah,
You find out Master Mole is still out there. You thank God to take him out. Now Magneto's the leader of the X-Men. your wife is a clone, and now your son is sick, and you got to send him into the future.
Right.
Yeah, and I have not seen this dude take one shot, not one shot.
No, no.
If this was me,
He's doing
woo,
the. I'm saying he's doing all this sober, bro. I don't know.
you know what I'm
I don't know.
saying? I,
Then you
I
know
would
how
have been,
what?
it would have been me and Wolverine. Y'all, I need another beer, man. I
Yeah,
need another
go
beer.
100%.
Let's go.
Um, he doesn't give his approval, but he walks away knowing Clone Jean will do what. And I keep calling her this because she hasn't named herself yet. Will do what needs to be done, and she does. Um, in possibly one of the most heartbreaking scenes in this series, you get her giving her like tearful goodbye to young Nathan, and telepathically giving him a message about how he wasn't given up because he wasn't loved is quite the opposite. He was loved so much that they were willing to do anything to make sure that he survived. Um, they they keep all the ambient noise in, like you hear crickets, like you feel like you're in this room, like you're outside, and you're
Yeah.
watching this mother give up her child. It's completely heartbreaking and done expertly well. Like I said, across the board, the shots are cinematic. Where you're just seeing like the silhouettes, the fireflies, and stuff like that, and then Bishop comes through. It's bonkers stuff. Really, really good. Um, Clone Jean and regular Jean have a heart to heart, and the clone redubs herself as Madeline Pryor, pledging to start a new life now that Jean has hers back. In a bar, Storm is approached by a man named Forge who says he can give her what she's lost. Was that another bell?
Oh yeah, yeah. This is immediately when I seen this was just like Life Death is just one of those essential stories that if you're an X Men fan, you have to read, where um, Storm has lost her powers. This is where all of it comes out, much like in the series that he is indirectly, or I think in the comic, is actually more directly
Responsible for the tech.
involved, responsible for the tech that makes her lose her powers,
Okay.
and it's heart wrenching because it's like she's in love with this man who is responsible for her losing her powers and the powers that define her. Like it's such a part of her, and it's so beautifully done. It's so beautifully done. The story. So, and I really like the way they adapted it. So this is really really well done. A bet again, getting away from the characters that had all the attention in the original series, and now you see how much attention they gave to Cyclops. Now we're going to give some attention to Storm, and I really like the way they handled all of this.
What's also interesting, I guess, more so than interesting, it's just the building blocks of storytelling, right? Knowing that they were going to put her in this very fragile position, they start her off extremely strong, so you can see that contrast. Like I said, there's no wasted anything. Everything here happens for a reason. It links to things. You see people's philosophies change in real time. As you
Yeah.
follow them from episode to episode, it's bonkers. So yeah, let's get into Motendo and Life Death. Our next episode starts with Magnus stunting on Gambit, hitting on Rogue at the breakfast table. He says something like, "Hey, if you're taking orders, I'll have a coffee." He goes, "Good thing I'm not taking orders. I'm giving them."
Orders. I'm giving
I
them.
was
Oh,
like,
I'm not only am I giving them, but I know how your girl likes her coffee.
yeah. I was like, damn. And he's wearing the exact right clothes to be sassy. So I was like, this is this is incredible. Um, he says they need more training just in case Sinister returns, but the team thinks there should be a celebration for Jubilee's 18th birthday. She wants to go to the arcade to celebrate, but the X-Men have a big meeting with the UN, so she's left in the mansion with Roberto. Frustrated she can't have any fun on her big day, she stumbles across a game system in her room that was seemingly never there before. Branded as Motendo, the game grows technology tendrils and they latch onto our heroes, submerging their subconscious into the game itself. Suddenly, they are in a fight with a sentinel who is on their heels, and Roberto won't use his powers in fears of being outed, even when confronted by a horde of armed FOH members. They pick up a nearby phone and are transported to an older version of Genosha that is reminiscent of the X-Men side-scroller from back in the day. They see a mysterious woman outside the gate, but she disappears quickly. The mastermind behind all this reveals himself, and it's an emaciated Mojo from Mojo's world. So I think all of that's pretty self-explanatory, but I wanted to pause right there at this reintroduction of Mojo in this. I've always liked this character. I just feel like he represents everything worse about the 90s and about consumerism and about television and ratings. Like we're talking about an era where you can turn on the TV at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and see my midget stripper wife is married to my horse on Jerry Springer or whatever the hell. Like that would
Yep.
just be on
Yep.
for ratings. And
Yep.
then they'd punch the horse. And then you just wait for the next episode. Like
Woo!
this is the most exploitive, I feel like, era. Maybe when it comes to the height of like reality television, but like this I screams to me that. And this idea that he's quote unquote starved for ratings, so he's all skinny and stuff, made me laugh as well. Like I fear a world that can tackle a live action Mojo, like a real just disgusting, nightmare fueled, Clockwork Orange, eyes opened up, being. How do you feel about the character of Mojo and his introduction, reintroduction
I,
here?
I'm happy he only got half an episode.
I don't think he can do
Because
much, like more
yeah,
than that.
no. So this is probably my least favorite episode of the entire series. Not saying that it's a bad episode,
Yeah.
but there's a reason why this story only gets half of an episode because they
Yes.
know like this doesn't it's not it's not it's not a deep story.
Yeah.
It's very in your face. It's this is what it is. It's kind of hard to hide what it's trying to tell you. And I felt like its main purpose was really just to give people a chance to learn a little bit more about Jubilee and oh, here's this Sunspot person because most people, even pretty hardcore X-Men fans, don't know much about Roberto da Costa. They don't. Sunspot was a new mutant, and when he
Yeah,
was a
he
new
was.
mutant, when he was a new mutant, he was not really highlighted well in the team, in my opinion.
Okay.
And then when they transitioned to X Force, the way they made him really interesting was to turn him into a villain for a little while. He was Rainfire for a
Ah.
little while. So the idea that we're gonna use Sunspot as like the new kid on the block's eyes, well, what better way than to like kind of have Jubilee latch onto him so she can pass that baton from her to him and
Yeah.
team them up in this episode where hopefully like Jubilee is leveling up and Sunspot is coming out of the closet, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the dude doesn't want to use his powers. Like you barely see him light up his arm
Yeah, he
in the
says when he does
series,
it, it makes him feel bad because it reminds him that he's not human.
right? Which is oddly
Self-hating.
reminiscent. It's a
Yeah, yeah.
self-hating, and this is a kind of way people describe other things about themselves. Oh, I didn't want to embrace that part of myself because they say it's bad. They say it's evil, right? This is
Yeah.
his whole life, his whole culture, his growing up is, oh, if I
Before
use this power,
it goes all the way back to like left-handed people, right? Like at one point, left-handed people were the scourge of the world, and they forced themselves to write and do things with their right hand, so to
yeah.
not be other,
I
to
mean,
not be weird, to not
the
be,
origin of the word left-handed goes back to like the word sinister. It's
Oh yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy.
I didn't even
Well,
think about that, but yeah, that's funny. So yeah, like you said, it's pretty much cut and dry. The like I said, the interdimensional alien TV producer who feeds on ratings has been starved as ratings are down across the board. Mojo has pivoted to video games, and unfortunately for Jubilee and Roberto, they are the stars of this one, and it's being broadcast across the galaxy. What's even worse is the game is based on their memories, and if they refuse to play or they die, then they will stay dead. Mojo dangles the idea of being an immortal star of a video game in front of Jubilee, but she doesn't bite. They are transported again and do battle with Sentinels and the dinosaurs in the Savage Lands, because they're basically running through the X-Men's greatest hits and people are eating it up. Mojo even lets his stomach out a bit and then has a little fun with that. Jubilee seems frustrated with all the changes that have been made since Xavier passed away and seems at home in these video game memories. She manages to save Roberto from a video game Magneto, and I love it because she learned his attack pattern. Like I just
Yeah.
gotta wait. It's a tried and true method. But she's eventually confronted with that mysterious woman again. She reveals herself to be a much older digital copy of Jubilee who was created to test the game, and she is the last copy left. Since then, she's been helping Mojo's captives escape the game. She warns Jubilee that there is no future when you're stuck in the past and that she can't stay in the video game forever. Together, they use their powers to vanquish Mojo, who vows revenge on the X-Men. Once they are once they are out of the game, Jubilee kisses Roberto, showing how close they have become. Yeah, a little bit of this is like a little bit of the criticism towards X-Men 97, right? Where it's like, well, yeah, you could just stay in X-Men the animated series forever. If you don't want this to
Yeah.
change, if you don't want this, if you think this is too much, whatever, you can stay there forever, but nothing's ever going to change. And doesn't, you can't just hold on to your past forever because it's what
No.
makes you comfortable. It's because what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, exactly.
So that lesson is there, and like you said again, the audience surrogate was Jubilee when this all started. So the fact that she's passing that on to Roberto, I don't even think he really gets a heroic moment this season. And he gets some moments where he helps people. But I don't think he gets his like, oh, the sunspot is here. So maybe we're waiting on that too.
Well, he gets, not to spoil it and get
Yeah,
too
yeah.
far ahead of ourselves, but he
Oh,
does
with the
get that.
yeah,
He gets that moment.
yeah. He gets the full out, the
Right.
full out of the closet moment. Yeah.
Right.
Um. So yeah, I dig them as a couple. She's 18. Still 18.
Yeah, I
It's been like
mean,
5 years.
it's fine. It's fine. I like where it goes from here, but this
Yeah.
episode in of itself is like, okay, cool. Oh yeah, again, like kind of reminding you 90s, right? Here you go. Here's remember because Motendo is blatantly based around the Genesis design. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, look at that. And then the fact that we all got to be reminded of that hideous noise we had to use here when we wanted to connect to the internet.
Oh man,
The,
I was thinking
the,
about that. I was like, what a relic. Like my kids are gonna be
uh,
like, what is that? Why is that? And I'm like, imagine if you had to do that every time you wanted to go online and you had to wait 10 to 15 seconds before you did. And then once
right.
you were on, if anyone used the phone, you would cut back off.
Or even you just lost connection. You just
Yeah.
lost connection. Let me reconnect again.
All of it, like, oh yeah, we had to plug into the phone line to get what? All of it, so good. And I was a sucker for the 16-bit, music, the 16-bit animation, her doing like combos on the Sentinels. I remember those games.
Of
There was
course,
one game that was hard as hell where you only got certain mutants to do
helper
their
things.
powers. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Hmm.
That
I
game was
think
hard as
that
hell. I was a
was
young ass kid, so that game was hard as hell for me.
that
Was
was
it
like
Children of the
I
Atom?
think was it Children of the Atom? I don't, it was help us out. Anybody out there?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I know one of them was I think Spider-Man and the X-Men.
Oh, it might have been that
And
one.
then there was another one that was just called like
Like
X-Men.
Iceman made bridges, I feel
Yes.
like, and maybe like two.
A Jean could like save you from falling into a pit, and she would
Right, right.
catch you and bring you up, and then be like, "All right, I'm out." Oh,
Yeah.
I'm fainting. I'm fainting. But
That's funny.
that was
Um,
it. Yeah. But yeah, those games were hard. Those games are how many quarters you remember pumping into the X-Men arcade game?
all the time, all the time. Um, the second half of this story sees Forge befriend Storm as she stays with him for a bit. He gives him a little bit of the chili, a little bit of his bison chili. He promises that he can help her with her powers, but before he does, he makes her food. They go see the sights, although Storm notices the same owl seems to be circling them. Forge admits that he has the mutant ability to invent and create anything he can dream of. And when Storm asks how Forge got his prosthetic legs, he explains that he lost them in a war, even though he's not specific about which one. Later, Storm admits that she had missed her powers, and Forge says he's built a machine he thinks it can help. Unfortunately, even when using this tech, Aurora is still powerless, and this shatters her. When Forge confesses that his tech was used to make the gun that dampened her powers, Storm becomes disgusted with him. She storms off, but suddenly ends up back at the ranch because of a demonic bird called the Adversary, or I guess I should say a demon in the shape of a bird called the Adversary who feeds on misery, taunts Aurora, and then poisons Forge. This was all absolutely bonkers to me. I've never seen this character before. I've never heard of
No?
this character before.
Oh
No.
my
The
God.
Adversary? No, nothing. Especially this
Wow.
bird version. Was he a bird in the comics?
Nope. Was not a bird. Was not a bird.
And
Looked more like maybe I mean this was it's a demon character, so it can kind of it can
it
change
could
shape,
resemble. Oh, okay, shapeshift. Yes, yes,
you
yes.
know, but the classic way he looks is kind of like like a Native American shaman.
Interesting.
He looks like a yeah, because he's a
So this
forge.
whole
He's a
story is a
forge.
bit of a is a like a spirit quest, spirit
Yes.
walk or whatever.
Yes, because ooh, man, this was a story that this was a story that I wish they had given more time to breathe, because when Storm doesn't have her powers in the comics, she's powerless for like I want to say like 2, maybe like 3 years, no powers,
Oh
none.
wow.
And during that time, she becomes leader of the X-Men, which I thought was dope. I wanted to see something like that happen in the series to show her, yo, that she is more than just her power. She's a formidable adversary, fighter, leader, even without her powers. She in the
Yeah,
comics, she fights Cyclops for the leadership of the X-Men without
I
her powers.
remember
Without her
this.
powers.
And isn't this around the same time as the Madeline Pryor stuff?
Yes, yeah, Madeline Pryor. Like I'm telling you, Madeline Pryor was around for a while. Yeah, so
Yeah,
she's in the
yeah,
background. Scott, you coming
yeah.
home? Scott, when you coming home? Hi, Roro. How you doing? I like your hairdo. Looks good. Looks good. Yeah, yeah. Just all this is happening at the same time. So it was still cool because look, you don't even the adversary is an obscure villain, but the adversary led to a very cool time in the X-Men. In the comics, the adversary, he damn near takes over the entire world, and the X-Men have to literally sacrifice themselves to stop the adversary from taking over the world and turning into like a hellish landscape.
Mhm.
But right when they sacrifice themselves, a character, I believe Roma, I believe it was Roma. I could be wrong. It was some super powerful character.
Chris Claremont's yelling
Saves
at you right now.
who?
Chris Claremont.
Huh? Yeah, yeah. He's definitely you bastard. You don't remember my stuff. I'm sorry, Chris. I'm sorry. He, saves them by sending them through the Siege Perilous, and but the world thinks the X-Men are dead. They're saved from the adversary, and that's when the X-Men become the Outback X-Men, where they go to Australia. They have a hidden base. This is where they
The
adopt like
Outback
a lot of
X-Men.
yo. They were in Australia. You never knew this?
No, the Blooming Onion X-Men. What's
Oh,
going on here?
yes, man. You ever heard of the character Gateway?
No?
Or
Is that like
You know
is that like
Gateway's
Mosaic? Is that like
not
that
Mosaic,
character?
Manifold. You ever heard, you know
Yes,
Manifold,
I know
right?
Manifold. I know Manifold.
Manifold is like Gateway's grandson or somehow related to him. Where a Gateway can teleport.
Mm,
He can make gateways and teleport. And they meet him in Australia, and he's the person that gets them around. So they can go
interesting.
on missions, but they go on secret. All their missions are super secret. Only you know, because like the X-Men that they think are dead are like Colossus, Nightcrawler, Shadowcat, and Colossus. Not Colossus. Nightcrawler, Shadowcat. Who's the third one? There's another one. Survive, and they go off to make Excalibur.
Ah,
That's a lot of people always ask that, like, yo, how come
why did it
Shadowcat
start?
and Nightcrawler make Excalibur? Why did that happen? Because they thought the X-Men were dead. So they went to like Britain to like restart their lives and they joined Excalibur. Uh,
Okay.
but and all the like Dazzler, Wolverine, I want to say Havoc, Psylocke, all these characters are thought to be dead. And they go to Australia and they just, you know what? This is a great time for us to lay low, recoup ourselves,
Chill
figure out
out.
what's going on, chill out. We'll still do secret missions. We'll do our thing here, and yeah, and that's where you get a lot of like the classic costumes. I believe that right around the same time is when they introduced the brown and tan Wolverine costume. The they That's when they really started playing games with like rogues costumes, and they oh, Colossus gets a really cool new costume during this time. This was a really fun. explorative time for the X-Men because it's like a reset
It
button.
broke the status quo, like you were
Yeah,
just saying.
but it breaks the status quo, but it's a reset button. You get all these cool new stories, and everybody starts to really be like reflective of who they are. Like, okay, I was supposed to be dead, so what am I doing now? Is you get a lot of very, very good stories at this time that go until most of those stories go until um the Jim Lee era. So it's a very, very cool time. I highly recommend reading those stories.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
so
this. I've heard of Life Death before. I've heard of this story of Storm before. Were you a big Forge fan?
oh, I love Forge
Yeah,
because conceptually, the idea that like, yo, this dude can just think of something and then his brain tells him how to make it. And I even love how Storm throws it back at him when he's like, "Oh, I have this power, it lets me do this," and she's like, "You mean you're a genius?" Like,
yeah,
because the thing about it, that's how geniuses are, right? Like, I mean, who didn't see Oppenheimer recently, right? Where this
yeah.
dude Oppenheimer can look at a chalkboard and I'm going to from all this theoretical nonsense, I'm going to make the atomic bomb. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's
I
crazy.
always think about Manhattan and the watchmaking, right? Like being able to take it completely apart to the cellular level, realize how it ticks, and then build it all back together. Like he has that innate ability.
Right. And here for that, that's Forge. Forge sees something and just goes, okay, I'm gonna build that. You know, it's an amazing talent. I was always fascinated with it because some people, but it also betrays him because in the comics, Storm throws it in his face. She's like, "You have this amazing power, but the only thing you can do with it is make weapons."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Ooh, like you have the ability to create, but you turn around and turn that ability to create into destroying."
I was quite it's not like she found blueprints for this weapon and he's like, let me explain. He like offers the information up that he was behind some of this tech, which I was like, maybe we should have held that back a little.
Well, I think that's showing how much he loves her. Like he's been falling
Yeah.
in love with this woman, and he's like, I don't want you to just find this out. I'm just gonna tell you because it's gonna come out probably eventually. It's gonna somehow find its way to you. So I'd rather be the person that tells you, and then tells you how crazy I am about you because I'm falling in love with you, and so you just know I'm just putting it all out there. It's pretty powerful. It's pretty powerful. I dug it.
Look at the X-Men teaching us how to love. How to love.
I love when he's telling her all this stuff, how many Easter eggs are in the background. Like you see him with because in the original series, he's on the X Factor team,
Yeah.
which in the comics, he doesn't join the X Factor team until way later. But at that time when the series was coming out and the comic was coming out, Forge was on the team. So I think they just put him on there. And
Hmm.
I feel like this series kind of regrets they had done that
Yeah.
because then it makes you have to go, well,
How?
why doesn't Charles
Yeah.
Xavier know him? And because then if in one of the pictures in the background you see he's got his arm around a certain future villain, hint hint.
Strife?
Mm-mm.
Who?
A future villain in this series that shows up later,
Okay, okay, okay.
you know, and they never bring that up again. But it's in the picture in the background.
And nothing gets done by accident. It's not like they're in the actual house and someone accidentally left that in the background.
Right,
You know,
right. So it's
yeah, everything's there on purpose. Interesting.
yeah, but
Yeah,
I really
again,
liked how this is done.
you were talking about like this kind of being, the giving half of the story to thing for the Motendo stuff, and another kind of goal I think that episode does is it kind of lets us catch our breath, because man, we're about to end this podcast with the final episode. I I'm rarely at a loss for words. I do this every week. I've been doing it for 300 plus weeks in a row. Um, but remember, it is a masterpiece. It's a masterwork. I liked it the first two, three times I saw it. When I watched it today to take notes, I made it a point to have it more fresh in my mind. Give it the Emmy. It's been they're putting it up for it.
Yeah, they
They're
are.
putting it up for it. Um, Not again, no wasted motion, no wasted dialogue. The turns from some of these characters. I, let's get into it. Let's get into it. So Trish Tilby of the FC News is doing an expose on the X-Men, and they agreed to be interviewed, hoping their transparency will put them in a good light to public. Again, being vulnerable so that they could feel comfortable, right?
Right.
This is something that Scott will get on in a little
Oh,
bit.
I love it when he goes off. It's so good.
Rogue, Gambit, and Magneto head to Genosha for a huge celebration, as today is the day the mutant nation will be folded into the United Nations. Genosha is a bustling sanctuary, and mutants of all shapes, sizes, and powers are seen enjoying themselves without having to hide from humanity. Magneto is seen as the great mutant liberator, and huge statues of Magnus and Charles are shown. Nightcrawler joins the show and agrees to be the tour guide for Rogue and Gambit while Magneto meets with Genosha's interim council. Rogue is mesmerized by the sight of a home for mutants, but Gambit realizing Rogue is falling for Magneto doesn't uh, see Genosha as a paradise. Nightcrawler tries to give Gambit a pep talk about love as he sees how much he's affected by Rogue. So much here, so much here. I love, I love how they show Genosha, and again, they know what they're going to do. But they show like children playing, and they show like street festivals and people dancing in the streets, and food carts, and all this kind of stuff, and everyone's happy and everyone's joyful, and Rogue has stars in her eyes because this is the things that Magnus used to tell her talk about that sounded crazy, but now it's here and now it's real,
Right.
and thus everything, like she almost loves him more for seeing through the thing that they had spoken about in that moment. Nightcrawler showing up and being tremendous, and finding out that he's basically like the like Genosha's chaplain, like he's the religious leader. If anyone needs like a talk about anything, like he's the
Mhm.
person to come to about that, and of course he would be. Um, I love it. Animated Nightcrawler has ruined me because now I want that black splotch on his face every time I see him. Just the black splotch and the yellow eyes. You
Right.
know, the way they play with shadows with that character, absolutely amazing. Magneto being like, "Hey, listen, if this plane goes down, you're gonna have to find a way. You better have find a way to fly because me and her can fly." So,
Right.
like that
Like you
kind of
better you
shit.
better
I'm sitting there, I'm like, "What's going on?" It's so good. And Madeline Pryor's here. She's got a seat at the interim table, and she's like, they wanted an X-Men. Good thing you guys had a spare Jean.
spare Jean.
I was like,
No,
okay.
again, I thought this was great for her. Like instead of turning her into that psychopath Goblin Queen in the comics, who was just her present every time she shows up, it's like, okay, how do we explain her? How do we make people know who this is? Just give her in this series. I love the fact that they're just no, they're letting her be who she was. Like, all right, you were a clone of Jean, you're Madeline Pryor, and you're not a psychopath. You're dealing with your new life. You're embracing the fact that you have this new life.
Yeah,
But besides that, seeing Genosha was great because in the comics, Genosha was a huge plot point in the '90s up until Grant Morrison, who he definitely inspired this episode.
definitely, definitely.
And
Yeah,
so I loved all the cameos. I love seeing Glob. I love seeing Pixie. Pixie's one of my favorite characters. I love her. She's
seeing
so
those two
seeing
are cool.
her. Um,
Glob is unmistakable. Like you see
yeah, you
that,
can't. Yeah,
you know
you
exactly who
can't
that
hide that.
is.
But think about this. They purposely use a lot of mutants who can't hide who they are. Leech is there,
Yeah.
Callisto's there. So in this, it's broad daylight and everybody's playing in the streets, having concerts in the streets. But a person with wings, a person with crazy colored hair, a person with antlers,
Yeah.
a glob who's a transparent skeleton with a blob around him. They're all
Mm-hmm.
hanging out in the street. Morlocks, Leech, they're all in the street where they could never be out in the sun. Whereas in America, they couldn't be out in the sun. They lived on the ground. They would have stay in their homes. Here, they're partying, right? And much like the song we're gonna hear, right? Living in a happy nation, living in a
Yeah.
happy nation. It's there, and it makes everybody quite happy. The only person who's jaded by it, Gambit,
Gambit.
and not
Gambit's
because
pissed.
he's and not because he's pissed at Genosha, even though he
Yeah.
points out like the prices. I think he's just pissed because old man Magneto is trying to bag his girl.
I love the line because this is a line I've heard from every shitty podcaster, every shitty like a reactionary person, and Maybe I'm just asking the questions. Maybe I'm just the only one willing to ask the questions. That's usually what everyone says. When they're trying to stir the pot. That's what he says when he sees the apples being $10. He's like, "Oh, apples $10," and she goes, "Yeah." Kurt's like, "No, sometimes to make a nation, it's a little bit hard." And he goes, "Well, maybe I'm just asking the right. I'm the only one willing to ask the questions." It's like, no, bro, you're not no fucking. Not no truth seeker. You're looking for dirt.
You're looking for
You know what I'm
dirt, and
saying?
you're just
There's
looking
two
at
different things.
you're just mad. You're just mad. And you're not even mad at what you're looking at. You're mad that your girl is going out with another guy. Because if they were together, he'd be like, "Oh, we'll figure it out, Shay." You know?
And I'm not necessarily mad at him for being mad. You know what I'm saying? I just don't think he should be, all like getting all pissed off at everybody else about it. I think he
Yeah.
has a reason to be mad, but not to let that's on other people. Again, I think equally to Magnus, Nightcrawler gets some stellar lines throughout this entire series, and one of them is here where he says something like, uh, "You can't have love without sin, because the greatest example of love is you like forgiveness or forgiving people for their past deeds." And I was like, damn, Nightcrawler, like, where the fuck that came from? Really, really good stuff. Um, Jean, still with fragmented memories and angry at Scott for his relationship with Madeline, chats with Logan about her concerns. Logan is kind to her and reassures her, and in that tender moment, Jean kisses him. She starts to apologize, but Logan immediately realizes she didn't mean it and shrugs it off as nothing. That was heartbreaking for me. He knows where he's
Yeah.
at.
Hmm.
There's no like, maybe we could try it out, Genie. He's like, no, this is all, you're angry at
That's it.
Scott, and that's what this is, and I don't want it in no part. I was like,
Hmm.
damn. I was like, damn.
Yeah, but he and but he but and it's heartbreaking, like you said, because even in turning her away, he still acknowledges like how much he loves her. He's like, "There's only one of you." You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Which is him saying like there may be a clone, but there's only one of you.
yeah.
And like he's telling her like I'm crazy about you, but I know who you're meant to be with. You're meant to be with Scott, and I like that in this matter. It was the show's way of acknowledging, look, there's this love triangle, but
Hmm.
we're pretty much putting an end to it right here. Because I don't think you're gonna see this love triangle come up again after that scene. And I think that was the real purpose of the scene. Because some people are using this scene against her later on when what happens with
Yeah,
Cyclops and Madeline later. But I think
yeah.
the scene needed to happen to kind of put that love triangle to rest. To just acknowledge, like, look, like we're that's over there, you know?
What's ironic to me is that, like you said, that they kind of put a fork in it, like they kind of, and a worse show would have used that to farm drama, in my opinion. A worse
Yeah,
show would
yeah.
have been like, oh, wait till Cyclops finds out, but that's never a thing because it's not because the act itself isn't malicious.
Nope.
So there's no need to bring it up and kind of, get in each other's face about it. But I feel like
Hmm.
a worse
Yeah.
show would have definitely mind that, and try to, I don't know, put a statement on it.
If it was run by Mojo, definitely.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I dream of Jean.
That's right. That's right.
So the oh, where's the kiss? Cyclops starts his interview with Trish Toby, but when asked about Nathan, he starts to flip out. He angrily bashes humanity for his lack of gratitude for the X-Men after everything they've sacrificed, but he's mostly projecting his anger after giving up his son. But you're talking about this scene. What do you think?
Oh, it was great, and I love the fact that how he says it. How he says, "Because you're normal."
Yeah.
Like he's
Because
throwing it in the comment.
because she throws it at him first, right? Like something like, we thought you guys were like, why can't you guys just like act normal, kind of stuff. Like she kind of throws that at him his way, like we're trying to normalize you guys,
Hmm. Not
and
just normalized, but there. She brings up all this stuff that's still very much unhealed
sore,
wound.
sore, yeah.
Like I just gave up my son, and you guys dug into the hospital records, found out that, yeah, like I got into an argument with the doctor. He didn't want to take care of my wife, instead of bringing up the fact that, oh, he didn't want to take care of her because he didn't want to take care of a mutant. And you want me to acknowledge the fact that I had to give up my son, and what attempt to explain, oh yeah, well, there's two of my wife, some guy named Mr. Sinister poisoned my child, and I now sent him into the future with his futuristic godfather. Bishop into the future to take care of him because we don't have the technology and the medicine to take care of him now. No,
Open and
like
shut case.
right? Yeah. Oh, makes sense. Okay. Okay. Sure. Thank you. Thank you. It's like, how do you explain all of that? And knowing that a huge part of that all that happens is because he's trying to protect humanity. But here humanity want them to be normal and want to just expose everything about them so that they could what possibly still hate them. So you want me to just put my heart out there, let you know all this stuff about me, so you can still look at me sideways. Because even at one point, even during the interview, doesn't the cameraman's like, "Hey man, can you take off the glasses?" And he's like,
No.
"No."
I love the voice acting. He's like, I can't. Like you almost like a you should know this. Like you're
Yeah, like
interviewing me, like you should know this. But you know what I got, what vibes I got? You read Tom King's Vision, right?
yes. Hmm.
When he's brought into the principal's office to talk about like some paltry thing that's happened between his son and whatever, and they're like reading him the right act, like as a father and as a role model, and in the back of his mind, he's counting all the times that the Avengers have saved the world.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Yes, that's right. Wow. It's been a while since I read that. So
Bro,
yes,
I'll
yes.
never forget that. I'll never, because it's true. It's like in this moment, what are we arguing? What are we talking about? What are we talking about
Yeah.
here?
Yeah,
Like,
because it was something dumb. It was like a play fight or something like that in the school, or something
yeah,
something minimal. And he's just like, bro, you should really leave me alone because yeah, I've saved you and your entire family and this planet.
yeah. And he's like, there
Mm.
was that time. He was like, he's literally like, there was that time with so and
Yeah.
so, and then we had to fight Kang that one time. The guy's just yelling at him, and this all I'm thinking about here is I don't know how to explain it, but they perfectly encapsulated somebody who's just over
Yeah.
it. The little mutters under his own breath, right? Scott's not want to mutter something under his own breath,
No.
and they're all little like, yeah, it'd be normal kind of stuff, or like when they bring up like Nathan and stuff like that, and he's what is this? Like, almost like a gotcha kind of situation. Like, I brought you onto my house. You
Yeah.
understand? Like, we didn't have to do any of this kind of stuff. You say that this is for the betterment of me, and now you're like dragging me. Like, nah, all
Hmm.
of y'all get out of here. Cutting the interview off. All of y'all get out of here.
Exactly. And he storms off. And he storms off. He's like, I'm done basically.
But
No.
such a like, I respect him. I'm not looking at
Yeah.
that situation being like, oh, what a crybaby, or like,
No.
wow, what got under his skin. I'm like, not the man to mess with today. Not the man
Nope.
to mess with today. You should have just let this rock. Um, it's also I just want to bring up really quick. It's kind of like shown that he's not like what do you call that? Media trained. Like everyone else
Yeah,
gets on
right.
the interview and it's
Hmm.
all like, hey, yeah, whatever, and they would like be piffy and give the one-liners and the insightful things or whatever. And you can see like even with like let's say when he's standing up and the glasses are reflecting the glare, so he has to sit down and all this stuff. To see that and like again, he becomes quite similar to Magneto, a bit of a boiling pot,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And that's for a reason. I want to believe. I want to believe they're
Definitely.
setting the groundwork so that if there is an eventual radicalization of this character, you can trace it back to
Oh, definitely.
when
I honestly,
humans
I
took it
was
off from him.
I was kind of waiting for it, or at least a scene where he would go to Magneto and say, "Hey, man, I kind of get why you're so pissed now."
Yeah.
Because again, it's just stacking on Scott. Like he's just had to deal with a lot, and it's been like maybe 2 weeks now.
And
And look how
again,
much
the
stuff he's dealing with.
audacity, like you're just saying, the audacity. I just gave up my son so that your son could possibly live, grow up, join the Friends of Humanity, and then try to kill my family.
Right.
That's the world we live in. And I'm supposed to grin and bear it because if I
Hmm.
act, and this is a real parallel to real life, because if I act aggressively, you'll say, you see, they're
Right.
all aggressive.
Right.
I told you they were aggressive. I told you that they were subhuman. You poked and poked and poked and prodded until you got the reaction you wanted, so that you could use them as an example.
Right.
You know, it happens all the
It's messed
time.
up. Yeah, it does definitely.
The interim council, Moira, I hope I got all these right because I don't think they name a single person in this. The interim council, Moira,
Hmm.
Calypso, Banshee, Sam Shaw, Emma Frost, and Madeline
I'm
ask
sorry. You
Magneto,
said you said Calypso.
is it not Calypso? No, is Calypso not the name I'm thinking of? The Morlock? Uh,
No, Callisto. Callisto.
Callisto.
She was there. She was in that room.
Yeah, because then also later on she's on a gurney. I think she died.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. No. She's definitely dead. She's definitely dead. She's definitely dead. She's definitely
Yeah.
dead. I'm. Banshee's also. Isn't Banshee in there
Yeah,
with
Moira,
Moira?
Callisto, Banshee, Sam Shaw, Emma Frost, Madeline.
Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Sebastian. This is Sam Shaw.
Yes. I don't remember Callisto being in there. I honestly, I'm a huge fan of Sebastian Shaw, Emma Frost. I think
Yeah,
every time I was watching those scenes, I was always like, yes,
digging on them.
yes, oh yes. And I was very upset that apparently one of them is part of the casualties, and so
Oh,
I'm hoping that
interesting.
changes
Right,
because
right.
he
Well,
shouldn't.
one's an immortal, right? Like,
Not only an immortal, but like the stuff that the Sentinels are throwing at him, he should be able to absorb and bounce back. So the fact that he dies, I was like, it's
it was
kind of
like the
hurt by that.
Darwin moment in First Class.
Exactly. Exactly. So dumb.
So yeah, they asked Magneto to be the official chancellor of Genosha. He ponders it while thinking of Charles, but is eventually convinced to take the job under one condition. He ruled Genosha alongside Rogue. Rogue immediately rejects the proposal, thinking it's a backdoor way for Magneto to get back with her. But he explains that his image is still tarnished. Although he still cares deeply for her, he's asking for her to help lead a nation alongside him and put their emotions aside. I thought that was fine. Jean lets Scott open up about Nathan and they share a sweet kiss. That's what I wrote down. Suddenly, a booming voice is heard.
That was so like
I forgot the second time. I'm writing the notes down and I forgot the second time. I'm like, oh, yeah, she's like helping him get through this.
mm,
And then a voice, a booming voice is heard. The surrounding area starts to get undone. It's Jean Grey. We realize that Madeline and Scott are together on the psychic plane, and a voice is Jean who snaps them both back to reality. That is a delicious moment, but even more delicious is Emma looking at Madeline, because
knowing,
yeah,
like,
because Madeline snaps back. It's like, ah, and like, is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, I just had like a mental slip. And Emma goes, yeah, a mental slip. And I'm
like she
like,
knows,
I like you,
she
you
knows,
know.
she knows what's going on. And I also like the fact that Emma's the one that gets to call her out on this because in
She's
the
the one who did it.
comics,
Yeah, yeah.
in the comics, yeah, it's a great scene where Emma's psychically trying to seduce Scott by dressing in the Phoenix costume, and
Hmm.
then Jean bursts into the room and it's just like,
Into their
whoa,
mind bedroom.
into their mind bedroom.
And
Yes,
it's like, what are you doing with my husband? Yeah, so like again, like that was a little salacious, but Emma Chef's kiss, like
yeah,
just making it more dirt. What is it? No, messy. Messy is the word the kids use. You make
yes.
it even more messy. Um, angry at his betrayal, Jean goes to leave the mansion and demands Scott be with Pryor if that's what he wants. When asked if he loves her, he says he loves the both of them. The complete wrong answer, even if he's being honest.
It's the wrong answer, but it's the honest truth.
That's what I said.
Like,
That's what I said.
you
It's
know what I mean?
like
Like, yo, up until what, a week or two ago, I thought you were one and the same person. I didn't know she was a clone. It wasn't like you they brought this to me and said I want a clone of my wife and I'm a sire a child with this clone.
yeah,
Like, you kind of got to, I get it. This whole situation is an emotional landfill,
yeah.
minefield.
Landmine. Oh, the
You
minefield. Yeah,
know,
you're right.
my field, because here you got two people who don't know when they were swapped, so neither
Hmm.
one knows how long anything was happening. Right? They even mentioned that earlier in the other episode. Was I the Phoenix? Were you the Phoenix? You know, who knows? Who knows? For all they know, it could have literally just happened at the hospital. Jean could have given birth, and then right, because you got that
Yeah,
transition
the
time in the
memories are the
hospital, right?
same. Yeah.
I've seen two children, more than two children, been birth. Mom usually goes to sleep for a few hours. Baby's in a whole nother room. Dad is chilling somewhere and could have swapped. So you don't know if they've been swapped for a couple days or a couple years. You don't know. And
Yeah.
of course, he's like, I'm to me when I see you and Madeline, I see the same person because you were the same person up until 2 weeks ago. So he's being honest. It's real. So the fact that I
It's
mean,
well, what's also like several of the accusations or even things said, I'm like, I don't, I don't know if that, I don't know how that's an insult, or I don't know how you want him to respond to that. At one point, she goes, Sinister ripped out a part of me, and you just love it. That shows how much he loves you. That even a part of you, you understand? Even a part of you, he's obsessed with. I don't, I get, the idea of, infidelity and, all that stuff there, but I think it gets a little bit more hazy when the person that he's cheating on you with is you. In almost every sense but the name, you know? And on top of all that, they have a child together. They
right.
just do.
They
Regardless of
do.
how you feel about it, they do have a child together.
Absolutely.
And come on. Like, so um Jean calls him egotistical, and Scott accuses her of just living on memories and not emotion. That was a line where he was like, "Do you love me, or do you just remember that you loved me?" Which is like, that's a line. Like, are you here because you think you have to be because you kind of remember that that's what you do, or are you here because you want to be? And he hits her hard with that. Suddenly, Jean is hit with a random psychic attack. Rogue confesses her past with Magneto to Gambit. She explains that before she joined the X-Men, she was pointed in Magneto's direction and told that he could help her with her powers. She was unraveled with his vision for a future of mutant kind, and they become lovers after Rogue realizes that they could touch one another. She also realizes that Magneto had a dangerous amount of anger inside of him and left before she would see any of his wrath manifest. After she joined the X-Men, they both acted like it never happened so that Rogue's allegiance would never be in question. But now, she's being asked to lead Genosha with him and is going to take the offer for the betterment of mutants everywhere. Remy gives her the cold shoulder, obviously hurt by this new development, even going so far as to say he bets that he will break her heart. He agrees to be her friend and walks away. He's just there throwing cards into the fire as all this is going on. I love that. And I think it's either right before this moment or right after this moment that our favorite voyeur friend makes himself known. Uatu himself, the Watcher, is shown
That's right.
in the skyline, which is always a sign of a party. It's always a sign that
Oh
good
yeah.
things are
A
good
party,
things
omen. Sounds
good
the
things
same, right?
one and the same.
I mean the I thought it was funny because in the original series, one of the first villains they encounter is after the Sentinels is Magneto,
Yep, enter
and
Magneto.
there's a big fight between Rogue, Cyclops, Storm, and Professor X eventually gets involved in it. And so to hear her be like, "Oh yeah, after this romance, we just acted like it didn't happen." I'm like, good one, writers.
Good cover, good
good,
cover. Yeah,
good
good
cover.
cover.
They
Yeah.
didn't bring it up in the past. We just didn't bring it up. We just
I just
acted
try
like
to
it didn't
kill her on
happen.
multiple occasions. Uh, Meanwhile, the gala is in full swing and everyone is dressed in their finest attire. Rogue makes a big showy statement, not only joining the party but taking Magneto's hand, something that causes Remy to leave. They share an intimate dance that ends in a kiss. That's all. Just again, I got the ick. I get it. I know it. I just don't like it. I'm just like,
It was harsh. I mean, especially if your team Gambit is harsh to see, but I think if in general, just if you're someone that's pined for someone
yeah,
to then see this happen, oof, it hurts. But it was beautiful to see that as soon as the kiss happened, Rogue was like, "Yeah, man, some things are." I forget what did she say? Some things are better than skin deep or something like that, or some things
yeah,
just
a
don't feel
touch
right.
or something. Yeah,
Basically
I
acknowledging that like I don't feel anything for you. Like it's
and
nice.
like
It's
and like I said, I even went on second watch, say a second watch and type in these notes. It's quite clear that this is all a show. She
right.
understands that Magneto's public persona is not one that everyone kind of likes. Even though the mutants dig him, a lot of humans fear him. So she is doing this to kind of unite, the two sides and, give him more the benefit of the doubt. She's not a big. I mean, she's quite affectionate, but I've never seen her fly up into the sky with somebody, dance with them, and make out with them in the sky.
No, right,
So I'm
right. This
assuming,
is
yeah, this is more performative than
it's a
anything else.
it's a political move. It's a political move. That's all it is.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, boo, boo, boo. They share a very intimate dance. Suddenly, Madeline is hit with a similar psychic attack as Jean. This time, Madeline can hear Cable yelling a warning, while Jean is flooded with Madeline's doomsday premonition from episode 1. Suddenly, the real Cable arrives in Genosha and tries to warn Madeline, but ends up time slipping back to where or when he came from, and he tearfully apologizes. Suddenly, the entirety of Genosha is enveloped in a green light, and a massive blast hits the building everyone's in. The blasts continue as mutants scream in fear and in pain. Flames erupt all over the mutant nation, and its destructor shows its face. It's a three-headed master mold who begins killing hundreds of mutants by the minute, whilst deploying regular sentinels to engulf Genosha. They're trying to evacuate people, but the Morlocks are stuck underground. Magneto, remembering his promise to Leech, sets up a rescue team of him, Gambit, and Rogue, and they do their best to take out as many Sentinels as they can, but one blast destroys the statue of Charles, which lands on a group of mutants, killing them instantly. Um, Everything about this. I think if I was a little, like a smidgen less tired, I'd be more emotional. But like, I was almost on the verge of tears watching this on a rewatch. Um, the way that they depict all of it, how it just stuns, how it comes out of nowhere,
Yeah.
how there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere to run, there's no one that
Nope.
can help. And then again, like, we know what's going on overseas. We know what's happening to people like this, to people who live this. Every day. It's just indiscriminate bombing. You just gotta hope you're not where it happens to live the next day, to hope that it doesn't land where you're at the next day.
Mhm.
Um, it was rough, and they knew what they were doing, showing it this way. That blast just bursting in every window, every right when it comes in and envelops and
Yeah.
just smash through every window, and like Storm. I didn't know it's not Storm. It's Rogue who like gets knocked out, and then you see things from her perspective. Like her eyes start to refocus, and her hearing starts to come back, and all you can see is people running and fire and more explosions. Whatever just happened wasn't a once off. You understand? Like this is
Right.
now happening, and it was absolutely terrifying. Talk to me about this early Genosha attack.
No, I mean, just it was heart wrenching just seeing the Cable moment, right?
Yeah,
Because we now know who Cable is
yeah,
officially, and so seeing him go and like he okay, because this harkens back to Cable's first appearance in the original show. I always wondered why they had Cable first show up in Genosha. It made no sense.
hmm
If you know Cable's story, it doesn't really have anything to do with Genosha. It's about Apocalypse. It's about him being the son of Scott Summers. He's like the mutant messiah, so he's all about having to save the future in order to save the past and kill Apocalypse. So I
John
remember in
Connor.
the show, yeah, right, exactly. So I remember in the show when he first shows up in Genosha, and they even Trask says I said, oh, he's like a bounty hunter, and we hired him, but then he turned on us or something like that. I'm like, what? Like, why did they make him like this? So I like the idea that now in this story in 97, saying that, okay, maybe was doing that as a way to try to prevent this
Yeah,
from happening. So I like how they cleaned up that story by doing this. So yeah, when he sees it, he's like, "Hi, mom. I'm trying to save you," and he's crying because you could
and
tell,
she
like,
says Cable. I was just saying Cable says
right,
Nathan.
Nathan,
Like she
right.
sees her son, the son that again maybe what a week two ago, she gave up,
She
hoping
gave
that he
up.
would live, and now she
Hmm.
sees him as an adult, and in the moment there that they're trying to have that tender, absolutely gets ripped apart.
Yeah, and like this the entire time we're in this scene, Genosha is a thriving nation. Like I said, that they're partying,
Happy
they're
Nation, yeah.
everybody's happy nation and dancing, and we now have our ruler and our leader, and his leader has his queen. This is amazing. This is a moment of joy that's quickly, quickly just dashed away by just what can only be identified as like atomic bombs being dropped on Genosha,
Yeah.
which if you know the comics too, where this happens, where this super sentinel shows up and kills, I think in a matter of hours, 16 million mutants.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's insane. It's 16 million people gone, eradicated, forgotten, dust. That's harsh. That's harsh. I don't. If you're a person, you hear about a few people dying. Most people react, "Oh wow, that person died, or hit by a truck, or a horrible accident, was shot, something happened," and you kind of, "Oh, ooh, that could have been a family member. That could have been this." You hear 16 million, even if
Yeah.
it's an island of people you don't care about, you still hear that number and go, that's something."
It's also a case where you know it's just going to be written up as another mutant genocide, like on the other side of it. Like
Right.
tomorrow's Tuesday for everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Humans get back to work, we go back to everything they're doing, and the mutants they're back down, down
Right.
again. Um, but like seeing Nightcrawler get hit, seeing people get vaporized right in front of us. You know,
Yeah.
threat seen, threat detected, boom, gone, done. Matter of fact, showing the cold and matter of fact nature of war, how it
Mhm.
just happens. There's no sad music. There's no slow
Yep.
motion shots.
Yep.
Fires, shots are fired, and people die, and that's just what happens. Cold as it is.
Yeah.
And these are people we are meant to sympathize with. These are people that we have been sympathizing with this whole time. Like I said, um, Callisto. I just saw
Gone.
her in the thing, dead, gone.
Yeah.
Sam
Banshee.
Shaw, like you say,
Banshee.
Sam Shaw
Banshee.
is on a gurney as well.
Mhm.
You know, and you're just like, and you see Nightcrawler like just be able to save some people, and then he gets
Mhm.
blasted. He doesn't die,
Right.
but he gets like, and I'm like, oh, if you kill Kurt, I swear to
Yeah,
God,
right.
I'm
I was
coming.
worried too. I was like, nah.
Yeah, but I'm like, they could
I was
do
like, no
anything in
way.
this instance. If they want to do time travel, whatever, they could do anything here, right? Like, I'm like, I don't know where this goes. I don't know how this ends. Only knowing E for extinction, you know? So I'm again just all of it completely well done, absolutely well done, chilling, chilling. Just how they show this, all of it.
Yeah.
Um, so excuse me. Oh, and then the statue, bro. And then the statue.
Oh, yeah. I mean the poetry of that, right?
Yeah,
Of
man.
like
Like he's
your
trying to
society.
save everyone at the same time, knocks into the statue falls and just murders people. No matter where he goes, it's just laws.
Right.
Like this has to be, and it quite frankly is the most triggering thing to have in Magneto in a very long time. It is his dream and the dream of his best friends, you know, in ashes.
hmm And he's still
And
delivering epic lines. Like I love when he
yeah,
says, we're gonna we now is not the time. We don't have the time to think about the regrets of the people we could have saved. We're just gonna save everybody."
yeah.
Little does he know, nah.
When this happens with the statue, he starts like having flashbacks. Like he starts, you know, thinking of the people that were killed, the people that he's met, that he's promised, or all the people that he's trying to lead. And he, in a badass moment, doesn't really do anything. He starts to beat the hell out of the Master Mold with a train. Like he starts to use it as a whip,
Use a whip.
and just anger in him. And he's bloody. His suit is ripped to shreds. You know, this is supposed to be a brilliant moment for mutant kind. And yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's horrendous. Um, Remy shows up to save Leech and the other Morlocks, and Leech is there like, I know Magneto's gonna come save us when he has
Mhm.
to. Whatever. And then it's Remy, and I'm like, and then the poetry in that again, nothing wasted, nothing by mistake. Remy helps Magneto get his promise across. You know, like Remy's acting in Magneto's stead. Magneto's the one who
Right.
set up this entire plan. And he's pushing past his pride, trusting this man who's trying to, get with this girl, um, and ultimately will pay the ultimate price for it. You know, it's like, man. So uh, Leech finds and embraces Magneto just as he's being targeted by the Master Mold blast, and Magneto manages to get a shield up, but the blast is too powerful. Before he succumbs to it, he wraps Rogue in metal to ensure she won't die trying to save him, and calms Leech down in his native German tongue before seemingly being incinerated by the blast. Again, like, damn. And he speaks that
Mhm.
German. I was like, what are y'all doing to me? Again, I'm like, this is an animated show. It's an animated
Exactly.
show.
And I mean, like, it's Leech, the
Yeah.
sweet green kid looking up at Magneto, and Magneto's just desperately trying to just like he's looking at him like, yo, we're about to die, but I'm still gonna comfort this person in death because what else is there to do right now?
He,
I'm not gonna sit here. We're not gonna die screaming. We're gonna die peacefully and chill. And it's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible to watch.
he's almost like a parent in that moment.
Yeah.
We know he has kids, but like in that moment, it's like it's more important for him to have that child, not be scared than it is to for anything else. Like
Right.
the Rogue maybe could have done something, but he's not even worth risking that. You know.
Again,
Um.
he's probably saying, one, it's the comfort he wish he would have gotten when he was going through everything he was going through. And he's
Yeah.
probably in some ways saying it again to himself. Like, all right, I'm
Yeah.
about to die. So I'm gonna make sure he's not afraid so that I am not afraid.
He's could have died in a million other ways. There's quite possibly not a more noble death, than standing on your nation as its elected leader, protecting its people. I don't
Mhm.
know, right? Charles would be proud. Um, so Rogue, in full anger, goes suicide by Master Mold. She just head straight for it. So Remy throws a motorcycle at her, which I thought was kind of badass.
He charges it up too.
Yeah, it's one of the few times you can get away with throwing a motorcycle at your girlfriend or your former girlfriend. Um, but that just brings the Master Mold's attention onto him. He uses his agility to dodge all of Master Mold's attacks, but is fatally impaled. Before he dies, he uses his mutant ability to fill the Master Mold with kinetic energy and introduces himself as Gambit and tells him to remember it before they
Remember
both
it.
explode. With the threat gone, the pure magnitude of this destruction is seen as the once bustling nation of Genosha is reduced to rubble. A tearful Rogue holds Remy while she says in a heartbroken tone, "I can't feel you," as the episode ends.
And the theme song plays in a very sad way. I love how they change the tone just to send home how bad what happened is.
It's one of those things where it's like I even talk about it now. Angry, sad, right? Like frustrated. What do you do next? This is a truly all is lost moment. This is a truly
Oh,
like where do we go from here moment. And thematically, if they can't have paradise, then what are they going to settle for? Right? If mankind has put that line in the sand and says you can't have that, then what
you can't have a tiny island in the middle of nowhere for just your people.
that affects
It
no
can't
one,
affects no one. We're gonna
you
blow it
know?
up.
There's also the added tragedy of this idea of that Magneto brought those people over there so that they could be safe, right? So there's
Right.
so many people on that island that wouldn't have been there if Magneto did not bring them over there, hoping that it would be a safe place.
Right.
Um, yeah, I don't think words can do it justice, man. Like I'm kind of struggling to continue to describe it, but I just like it is like for all the Call of Duty of the world, right? Where people are cosplaying as soldiers out there, getting kill shots and stuff like that. Like this is the harshness of real war. This is the matter of factness when people decide that a other side is less than human and therefore does not deserve to live. this is a true example of what certain people are living every day, you know, until their extinction, because that seemingly is the only other
Right.
option, because there's no tolerance on the table anymore, you know. Um, it's heart-wrenching, but it's beautiful. It's doing what X-Men comics did. It's
Yeah.
bringing up the questions and the themes that you should be concerned with, that you should be worrying about, that you should be, you know, like this bullshit about like escapism programming. Like, no, man, this stuff that's happening outside, you kind of got to be fucking aware of it. And if we got to put capes and cows on it for you to be like, what? Oh, so people who are different are not enemies. You know what I'm saying? Wow, that's crazy. They killed him just because he had a different religion. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Wow,
Man.
what would you do if a whole nation did that? That'd be even
Uh-huh.
crazier, wouldn't it?
It's like a brand new idea, huh? No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I love that this was able to bring this to the forefront and bring this to the table because I'm shooketh, and I do believe that it should be nominated, at the very least nominated. Um, I couldn't just recommend this episode because without context, I don't know what it means. But as a culmination of just these 5 episodes, not even the entire animated series, right? As a culmination of just this one half of the series, talk about a roller coaster. Talk about a roller coaster. The latest and greatest to come to X-Men comics in a good way, and then also in the most tragic way. People who had a feeling that this might be something on the horizon. Cassandra Nova confirmed for Deadpool 3. Who knows what the Uatu is now the official tie to all of this, right? Because he's been in What If, and he's been, you know, now we've seen him in this. If there's Watchers in Guardians of the Galaxy, I think Stan Lee's hanging with them. I think it's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
So they kind of I think honestly they are gonna find a way to tie all this together. Not in a way that you have to watch it all to enjoy it, but I can't help but think that somehow, some way, some version of this is going to be tied to everything. You know, I know we're past the Kang of it all, but I think Immortus was in the original series at one point. He had did some time screwy uppery.
Hmm.
So who knows? Like, is that a multiverse? Is that a tangent? Is that Immortus hanging out with the Kangs and all were in the stadium and stuff like that? Like, it's all bonkers. Ugh. Well, I've been
But
going on for. Go ahead.
let me tell you this, ask you this though.
Yeah.
Of course, the tragedy of the entire
Yeah.
Genosha being decimated is bad in and of itself. But whose death affected you most?
I think it was Remy's. I think it was
Mhm.
Remy's because I, like I said, I bastardized him for being a brat earlier. You know, even when watching, I'm like, why are you being such a jerk? I get the situation, but like now is not the time to do this or act this way. And to go from there to the conversation with Rogue, where he, you know, through gritted teeth, is like, we could still be friends, you know? To him watching them kiss, he could have been like, screw these guys, screw everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
and he becomes the fallen hero in all this, and he is so often played as the comic relief. He's so often played as the guy where things just roll off his shoulders, you know, that he doesn't worry too much about any of this stuff. So to have all of that and then have the gravity of his death, um, and in true Gambit fashion, he's like joking and dodging, and you're like, oh, he got this. You know what I'm saying? He's got this figured out. What's gonna I was like, nah. I was like, no way, no way. He again, he like all the cool stuff. He riding the Sentinel head into the where the Morlocks are. He's like surfing on it. Badass stuff. Like all these
Mhm.
cool ass moments. They really make you. They really reward you for being a Gambit fan in this episode, and then stab you in the heart. Whose death got you the most?
Magneto.
Yeah.
I mean, I was loving Magneto's story, and so seeing him have the opportunity to turn it around, getting to live out Xavier's dream, and then just like his in his dying, he's literally trying to protect people. He's encasing Rogue. He's encasing Gambit. He's
Yeah,
trying to protect Leech. Even his final words are just comfort because of what's about to happen. To see him get vaporized, I was like, man, that hurt. That
yeah,
even that like even if he's somehow able to survive this, and that because at the time I was like, oh man, he's done.
yeah.
Even if he's able to survive this, because it is comic books,
Hmm.
how does he live through this yet again? You know, he's
Yeah,
seen his family killed. He's seen his kids killed. He's seen friends and family constantly getting murdered, and now a whole island of his people who have just chosen him to be their leader. And
yeah.
on the night of his ascendance,
I
yeah,
think of uh I think of Wen Wu in Shang-Chi. He's this, ruthless killer, decides to settle down and have a family, and when he puts the rings away, that's when he loses his wife.
right,
And it's almost a reminder to never put the rings down. You always have to, be willing to fight, and that's incredibly exhausting. There's no way to live. There's absolutely no way to live. But humanity has shown Magneto that there's nothing else. This Genosha attack, if he were to come out of it, then turns into an eventuality in all cases. This is what humanity's capable of.
right.
Always. Always. Because if there's even a 1% chance, right? If there's even a 1% chance that humanity is capable of this, they could do this anywhere, at any day, whenever they feel like it to humanity.
Right.
And that's shocking. And again, quite similarly to what we were talking about world events, you'll see in the future that humanity's fine. That the rest of humanity's kicking. Humanity's fine. Yeah, we're gonna induct somebody into the UN, but it ain't happening anymore. Why?
Eh,
Let's not talk about it.
right.
Um, but what a tremendous 5 episode stretch. We've gone on for 3 hours in this, and besides needing to go to work tomorrow, I really enjoyed this conversation because I think it
Yeah.
deserved this level of insight, this level of breakdown, this level of recap. But as we end this off, uh, how do you feel about this first half, and what would you say to those who are still on the fence about taking this in?
Oh, this first half was amazing. I've seen it a few times already, especially in preparation for this. And if you're such an X-Men purist that because of the way they've compacted the stories, I totally get it. But the comics still exist, and I like the direction that these stories are now going because I've never really been a fan of one-to-one adaptations because
I can
it's
see
like,
that.
well, you already have it,
Right.
you know? And when you have a perfect adaptation, the only thing to me, especially nowadays, the true enjoyment you get from it is being able to watch it with people and go, look, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, call it because you called it. Yeah.
You go because you knew it already.
Hmm.
That to me it gets boring. I love like just to compare it when the first season of The Walking Dead came out.
Hmm.
I loved that we got to see so many differences because even Kirkman himself said, had he known he knew that The Walking Dead was going to be as successful a comic book as it was, the first 6 to 12 issues would have been completely different. But he
Yeah.
wrote it as if though, hey man, this thing could get canceled next month. So I gotta balls to the wall. I do all these crazy stories that I really want to flesh out over 24 to 36 or longer issues, but I gotta compact them. So this series is forcing that to happen with a lot of stories. Some stories for the better. I will stand by that with the Goblin Queen. Other
Hmm.
stories not for not. So for those of you who are upset by that, guys, this them compacting it to me is going to lead to more maybe not necessarily more interesting stories depending on who you are, but at least different paths for us to see the different ways. Like I love seeing this Madeline Pryor. This is a Madeline Pryor that's
Yeah.
way more interesting than just a scantily clad woman who has these diabolical wishes and wants to put hell on earth. Boring. We have plenty of
Yeah.
characters to do that. We don't need Jean's clone to do that also. So this was way more interesting to me. And to see how they're going to link up all this cable stuff now with Nathan and Um, they killed Gambit. They killed Gambit. And for those of you who know,
Yeah.
because I was worried this was gonna get quickly undone. I'm like, man, they showed us time travel and they
Right.
killed a key character. They're gonna undo this. It doesn't go that way. I'm fascinated by that because in the comic books, that thing would get fixed so quick.
Yeah.
So I liked where this is going, and I like that it's somewhat different because I could read the comic and go, "Ooh, good story," and I can watch the show and go, "Ooh, different take on the story." It's kind of like a what if, different take
Yeah.
on it, and I get to enjoy that path. So, guys, give it a chance. I know so many people who did not give the show a chance, including you. Now, I'm shocked by this. Give it
I
a
mean,
chance. Give it a chance. But if you don't want to give it a chance, or if you're someone that wants to explore more, read the comics. Read the comics. Go find Life Death. Go check out Inferno so you can laugh at the nonsense that happens in Inferno and the stuff that led up to Inferno. Read the first couple issues of Cable. I
yeah.
recommend those if you want to get into his history of Cable and learn more about what doesn't happen in the series.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later. Oh, guys, what a time to be a comic book fan, right?
100%. And I also agree with that sentiment. I do believe that when this kind of stuff is done right, it does lead directly to the comics because it creates a hunger and a hunger that cannot be satiated by waiting another year for a season or waiting another 2 years for a film. I know that personally. Once I start to bite, I'm like, oh, I gotta go search that out. I've got to now see that to fruition. I want that story told to me in the longest form possible. I want to sit in whatever story that is. And again, I know that it could be tricky because we've seen some god awful adaptations that change things for the sake of changing them. But what I will say is that uh, I feel like it is a bit of hubris to think that no story can be improved upon, right? That it has to be a one for one. There's nothing we could change to make this better. There's a little hubris behind that, but there's also hubris behind we don't have to tell this story. We can just use elements of it and vaguely hint to it. So there's got to be a middle ground there where you have such confidence in your understanding of the genre that you can change certain things and still invoke the same feelings. Because no matter what was changed in here, I would love to argue with the person that feels that those changes took emotion out of this show. Because I don't believe that's the case. If you want people to feel for the X-Men, this show did it. Changes be
Yep.
damned. You know, they in 5 episodes, and obviously the entire series encapsulates this, but just right here, you could put a pin in right here. You got the entire X-Men experience right here, right? Sometimes it's fun video game stuff. Sometimes it's shaman quests. Sometimes it's trying to do your best by humanity, and sometimes it's a genocide. Like that's X-Men comics. Like it's all the flavors in just 5 episodes. It gives you a perfect sample size. And if you want more, there are decades of comics written by extremely talented creative teams. Go out there, search them out, and yeah, we'll wrap this up, and we'll be back next week to cover 6 through 10. It's gonna be fun. But yeah, join us for all this stuff. This is all a lead up to quite possibly the biggest MCU film to be released in quite some time, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Right.
So just keep a mind on that. That many people are saying the X-Men are going to be the ones to save the MCU, and if they can be characterized in this fashion, if we can give them this level of depth, you'll really understand why the X-Men were the thing that was holding Marvel up for so many years. But you guys hold us up over here at comicbookclick.com. You guys out there on our official, we just did our first YouTube live stream. It was pretty cool in there. I had someone ask how they could donate. That's where we're at with levels here. So we need to figure out how that can be done. That's what I said. We need to figure out how that can be done because we do. We gave a lot. We just gave a lot of our time. And if I gave 3 hours to talking about this, could you imagine how much time I gave to writing and composing and doing the research about this stuff? Is because when this stuff is good, it's addicting. I love it. And I want to, similar to the creatives of this show, put all my passion into it. And it will be trapped here forever. When I'm on a bad day, I just got to listen to this episode of me and the COG going over this series. And all of our adulation is trapped in here because we do this as a passion of ours. All of this stuff is a labor of love. So you can go to comicbookclick.com for all those listening, watching, and it has every single episode of the Major Issues podcast, multiple X-Men episodes. I think we tried our best to summarize every X-Men film in one episode, and that ends up being over 3 hours as well. So X-Men, Dark Phoenix, we've covered some stuff on here. House and Powers of X, and coming up soon, the New Mutant. Nope, New X-Men. So check, wait for us there when that comes. But the only way to make sure that you're here for these episodes is to subscribe to the Major Issues Podcast wherever podcasts are found: Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, the Apple Podcast app, TuneFi, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Literally Google the Major Issues Podcast, and we'll be the first, I don't know, 17 results, because we dominate that space. We are the Major Issues Podcast. There's no secondary. There's no Madeline Pryor situation happening over here. We are the original. We are the one of one. So yeah, Google Major Issues Podcast. Find us again. Go to comicbookclick.com. It has all of our episodes. Consider becoming a Patreon. Patreon.com/CBC Clubhouse for as little as 10 cents a day, $3 a month. You can help us afford the lights on the lights. Nope. You can help us afford the hardware and the software that we need each and every week to keep the lights on over here as we provide content for you guys free of charge. So yeah, we maybe need to be promoting our Patreon a little bit more if people are trying to donate. That, I'll send that pan around. You know what I'm saying? I'll jingle my cup. It is what it is. Again, we take a lot of time, so if any of that could be compensated in any way, if any, we're gracious. If you can't give us money, if you can't become a Patreon, consider buying merch. Buy a shirt from tpublic.com/comicbookclick. We get a kickback of that, and then you get a piece of merch. We got a brand new shirt out that's doing well, selling. You got worthy, or you are worthy. Shirt, a very particular catchphrase, and on some merchandise. So consider picking that up there. I did that. Rate and review us on iTunes. It's a quicker way for us to grow as podcasters and find out what you like and what you don't. I've been to the future where we do become the latest and greatest thing to come to comic books and comic book media, but I can't tell you how we do it because then I get the techno-organic virus and no one knows how to cure it yet. So that's a whole thing. So make sure that you get on the bandwagon before the bandwagon gets full. And I'm telling you guys, it is getting full. Like, we just did our first YouTube live with people there commenting, riding with us the whole time. We've done this on Facebook before. We are on Twitch at Major Issues CBC, Facebook.com/comicbookclick, Instagram at comicbookclick. Use the hashtag comicbookclick to talk about the news, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. We started in April with roughly 20,000 ish followers on Facebook. We are now approaching 27,000, I believe. I think we just broke 26, reaching on to 27. It's all coming, and it couldn't happen to a better team out here, because all of us bust our ass for this thing that we love. So give us a little bit of love back, whether that's monetarily, whether that's telling a friend to tell a friend about the podcast, or whether that's rating and reviewing us across whatever platform catcher of choice you are using. But yeah, we're gonna end this one. Absolutely excellent episode. My name is George Serrano, aka the Don,
And I'm Alex Garcia, aka the Cog.
and this has been our X-Men 97 Part 1 recap and review. And remember, whether you're an evil clone, whether you are full of adamantium, whether you shoot lasers out of your eyes, or just can't feel the breeze anymore, remember that you are always part of the clique. And please remember that you, yes, you are worthy. So that's the end of our recording. Now, how do I end our up? Bye, guys, on YouTube. Thanks for joining us. This was experimental. If you guys dig it, and we'll see how you guys respond. But this was a hell of a thing for us, and we might be doing more of these. Who knows? All kinds of times of the night. But
Thank you guys. Appreciate
always,
it.
and remember,